Hey, everybody, welcome. It's the 400th episode. And I cannot believe that we have made it to episode 400. It's crazy.
And how many years, Adam?
Yeah, because it's not only the 400th episode, but it's also, I'm considering it, even though technically it'll be next month, but I'm really considering this like our 10-year anniversary. I've been doing Conspirinormal now for 10 years. And it's hard to believe sometimes. And Sergio, I mean, you've been with me for 4 years now. And that's a good long time.
Yeah, but of course it feels like yesterday.
We just talked to Rob. We'll probably pin that at the end of this or put it up for Patreon or whatever we'll do. But, he was with us for 5 years. So, it's cumulatively, and Luke, he's hiding somewhere. He was with me for a while too. So It's been quite an epic journey. And tonight we've kind of just got a revolving door of people to help us kind of celebrate this 10-year epic journey. And some of them have been guests. Some of them probably will be guests. Some of them have been speakers at Strange Realities. Some of them will be speakers at Strange Realities. And I'm happy to have each and every one of you guys on. And I'll just go down the list. Everybody can say hello. Steve Berg is here. This is from my perspective. Joshua Cutchin.
Hello. Happy to be here. Congratulations, guys.
Thank you, sir. John Tenney.
Hey, what's going on? Glad to be here. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you, John. That's awesome. It's awesome to have you with us as well, man. Chris Ernst.
Hey there. Yeah, congratulations. 400. That's really significant.
yeah, it's something. Dr. Future.
Salutations.
Guys, congratulate Dr. Future. He got Zoom figured out tonight, so we're definitely happy to have him.
Finally, that doctorate went to good use.
Yeah.
Dr. Zoom.
We got
Hey, didn't he fight the Flash? Dr. Zoom?
Mr. Zoom. He likes you to call him Professor.
Oh, okay.
And I got a couple of our biggest supporters. I got Vincent Treewell is here and Jennifer Campbell.
Hey, really happy to be here. Loved the event in October. Absolutely fantastic.
That's right. You were here.
Can't wait. Yeah, can't wait to do it again. I found out when I was watching it later that the back of my head is like in every presentation.
Yeah.
So it ended up being a little more of it than I expected, but no, I had a fantastic time and just glad to reconnect.
It's a very famous back of the head, you would say, I guess.
There's a couple other bald men in the vicinity. We had like a astronomical alignment going on.
Jennifer Campbell is also here too.
Hey y'all.
She's a big supporter. She came to the two Strange Realities that we did live, and you've also been a Patreon in the past as well.
Yes. I love the community. I'm so excited for y'all to do this for 10 more years.
Well, we'll see. Yeah.
We're gonna turn up in October.
Yeah. This time we're really gonna turn up. And I've got Pandora Blackthorne is here as well.
Hey guys,
you guys haven't heard from her?
Yeah, congratulations on 400 episodes. Amazing.
And Pandora doesn't live here now, but you are a native Nashvilleian.
I am currently in the wonderful state of Florida, but yeah, native Nashvilleian.
Florida.
The final frontier.
Feels like it sometimes, believe me.
And got a couple of patrons. Got Patrick here and Doug hanging out.
Hey guys.
And everybody that is here, Kiki Dombrowski is here, as you guys heard her on the last episode.
Hi, I'm happy to see you guys again. I'm going to see you a whole bunch this month.
Yeah, because in about 10 days from the time we're recording this, we're going to do your Exploring Tarot talk that we're putting on as our first speaker series that we're doing. So,
I'm really looking forward to it. I think we're going to have a good time learning about tarot together.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, it's going to be I think it's going to be really great. We really thank you for being the inaugural guinea pig for this thing. So
I'm happy to be.
Yeah. So, well, guys, I want to thank everybody for being here. And I've kind of prepared something that I wanted to read for you guys and for the general audience as well. It's something I sat down. Sergio was encouraging me to write something about the show and about a little bit about the history, and maybe a little later we could talk a little bit about how some of, I guess, my ideas, his ideas, our ideas have changed. And if anybody else wants to get on that conversation, more than welcome to do so. But I titled this thing, I guess, a little a little tribute to David Bowie here, except for 5 years. It's 10 years. So I'll read this thing here. If I can read my own chicken scratch. So it's been 10 years since I started Conspirinormal, and sometimes I can't even fathom how long it's been, and other times I feel like it's been only a few weeks. And maybe that's really what they mean by missing time, because it feels like I've been doing this thing forever, but sometimes I look back on 2012 and I think about it as being kind of like yesterday. So Conspirinormal, the show, it grows out of a desire to talk about both the paranormal and all the conspiracy literature that I devoured for a very, very long time. Myself and Sergio, we're kind of consider ourselves kind of old school conspiracy theorists, I guess, as opposed to the mess that conspiracy theory is now. And I'd also listened to a lot of podcasts, and really even before there was even such a word as podcasts, I was listening to them, because it's really since like 2005. I heard a show on these two guys on Coast to Coast called Ghostly Talk, and they were talking about, I think John's nodding his head, I'm sure he knows them, they're in the Detroit area, and started listening to them. And they just basically, at the time, that was really something that was considered like an internet radio show. And through them, I found like Darkness on the Edge of Town, Dave Schrader's show. I found the World of the Unexplained, which had a lot of influence on me. And kind of in between that time and that, about 2010, I met Dr. Future here at a conference here in Nashville, and started listening to Future Quake not too long after that. I'd listened to a couple of episodes, but I hadn't really gotten into it until I'd met Dr. Future. And that show, Future Quake, was also a big influence on me. So that's why Dr. Future is here and why he is such an imprint on Conspirinormal now. So thank you, Dr. Future. Yeah. And in 2012, I was ready to do my own. And also at that time, Mike, you had hung up Future Quake. You got to about 300 episodes. So I've beaten you by 100 now, Mike.
Mm-hmm. In quality as well and quantity now.
Thank you, Mike. Yes. And so I felt like now, like at that point, that was the time to do my own show. And I couldn't really hope to ever equal the brilliance of Future Quake, though. So I don't feel like I've ever quite equaled that. But so there's a lot of stuff in Conspirinormal's DNA, a lot of different shows that really influenced me. And through going to a ton of conferences, I started to meet all these people that I wanted to talk to. And that was my goal when I first started the show. So if you guys have listened to Conspirinormal since the beginning, I don't know how many of you guys have. If you've listened to Conspirinormal since episode 1, then more power to you. Started with my first co-host, Luke. And there was also this Art Institute student, which Art Institute is no longer. That's how long ago this was. That helped me with some of the production work on the very early episodes. And after a while, it was just Luke and myself. And sometimes I would just fly solo, having people on. In fact, I think John Tenney, the first time I spoke to you, I think it was by myself. I think I had you and Chad on the first episode I did with you. And at the start, I had all these guests that I wanted to speak to, pursued them, got them on. And from the beginning, the show was pursued different topics, and it's remained so to this day. So we don't just stick with one topic. It's not all paranormal. It's not all conspiracy theories. Sometimes it's history. Sometimes it's personal experiences. I mean, I really feel like we kind of had like a nice little grab bag of shows. So topics. And around episode 60, I really wanted to find a way to improve the sound. And I'm really good at getting guests on, Serfiel can tell you, but admittedly, I'm not really that great at production, like at all. And so one day I was at work and I mentioned my friend Alyssa, and she told me that her husband was a sound engineer, and that was Rob. And October 2014, Rob came over with a bunch of mics, and then he sat in on the next episode that we did. And from then on, we called him Producer Rob. And in the summer of 2015, we just actually talked to Rob about this. We moved into his garage, and which was in his new home, and we would record the show every Sunday night. Later on, we moved it to Tuesday nights, which it still is our recording night to this day. Had these really comfortable couches in the studio, which is like the worst thing you can do when you're trying to stay awake for a podcast. And so that Luke would often fall asleep. I don't know if you guys ever saw the pictures of Luke asleep on the couch. And there's a lot of jokes about that. And Luke, he was a real free spirit, and kind of like, began to come less and less, drifted away from the show. And for a while, it was just Rob and I. And Rob and I he would be a part of the show for about 5 years. So I'll talk about Serfiel, this guy, how he came to the show. And it was really because of an episode we did with Adam Go Rightly, which was episode 33. That was actually meant as the episode number. And the topic was James Shelby Downard. And Serfiel actually found that episode and found out that we were here in Nashville. And Serfiel reached out to me, and I really kind of understood at the time that he was into some of the same old weird old time conspiracy shit that I was into. Anybody that knows who James Shelby Downard was, I know Pennyroyal has blown the roof off of it now, but anybody that knew who James Shelby Downard was pretty good at knowing obscure shit. So I really wanted somebody that was knowledgeable and somebody that I felt would be a good co-host. So this was around the time of the 200th episode, and that was in February 2018. Josh, you were part of that. Randall Carlson was part of that. You actually brought Randall up from Atlanta. Dr. Future, you were a part of that as well. And put this guy, Serfiel, put him on the mic to ask some questions. And that was kind of like an audition that we did. And then we did a book report episode, like a couple of episodes later, I think, right?
Yeah.
And he talked a lot more on that show. And then I think like a week or so later, I asked him, well, do you want to just be a part of the show? And if you got any memories of that you want to share?
Yeah, I mean, I was intellectually starved, working a pretty terrible job, had been out of school for a while and was just like did a lot of really dry studying of international politics and stuff in schools. And then after I got my degree, I made it a point to like go back and get all the weird speculative and conspiracy books I ever wanted, because I was tired of all that like dry political garbage, and I needed to exercise my imagination. And I was really intellectually starved. So being a part of Conspirinormal was just awesome, and getting the chance to have access to all these different people and ideas, and it kind of turned into like a book report thing too. So yeah, I mean, it helped totally change my life, and served as like a lot of stimulation to total self-transformation. And I'm really not exaggerating. It was really what I needed. It was a great opportunity that changed me forever.
Yeah. So 2019 was a really huge transition for us, for the show, for us personally. Rob, he really needed to bow out because he had a lot of family commitments, starting his new business and all that. And we moved over to what we jokingly called Studio B, which was really Surfy Hill's basement. And another thing that really affected me that year was being part of the Paramania event, where Josh, of course, I already knew you, but I got to really meet Ren and in person, and I got to meet Tim Banal and get to know him, and that really, and David Metcalf as well. That really served for me to be a catalyst, because we were already thinking about doing the this first Strange Realities conference, and I just decided to go full speed ahead. I think, Josh, I think you remember me taking you aside and asking you, and that was kind of the Strange Realities conference in embryonic form. So in October 2019, we finally did it, and since then we've done two more. I mean, with 2020, obviously that was online. As of 2021, we just finished up, and now I am gearing up, getting the guest list, the speaker list for 2022 ready to go. And Rob, still very much a part of that. Him with that connection to SIR, the venue that we do it at, and then also him running the sound. So he's still very much a part of like our kind of extended family. And finally, I just want to tell everybody, thank you. Everybody that's here tonight and that's going to be here tonight, and also people that couldn't make it as well, which is really just a lot of people to mention. Really doing this for as long as I have now. It's been a real learning experience, and it's something that has been really, really rewarding, maybe not financially or monetarily, but definitely intellectually, and the friendships that I have made and the interesting people that I have gotten to know, and just such as going to hang out recently, to hang out with the Pennyroyal guys, and getting to meet Dan Dutton and going to his studio and seeing his artwork, and just being with interesting people like that is something that is extremely, extremely invaluable. Mm-hmm. And I want to thank everybody for all that. And here's to the future, and wherever much longer as Conspirinormal lasts. I hope that you guys hang with it, and thanks for being a part of it, and all 400 episodes that we have done.
Man, I want to hop in real quick and just say that, like, through all these episodes, just since I've been here, I mean, I've grown so much, and you can like see the advancement in real time from casual flirtation with the abyss to like really becoming mature in like dealing with a lot of this crazy shit and getting a better understanding of it and more nuanced understanding. I mean, if you like take a lot of the fringe stuff like you were interested in at the beginning and just see how like your views and thoughts on all this stuff has changed, and mine too.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
I mean, and I think especially over the last 2 years, my thoughts have matured, and with all the craziness that is unfortunately part of this community now, I've definitely had to also kind of distance myself from some people that I really respected, just because I can't agree with their viewpoint on certain things. And that's never honestly been like that for me before. But I think with the seriousness of what we have been through in the last 2 years, it's something that you can't take lightly. And you also can't be a part of the problem by spreading all kinds of lies and disinformation. And I feel like some of the people here too, feel that way as well. But just even beyond that, having read a lot of the works of some of the people that are actually here now, has changed a lot of my perspective. I think Dr. Future, I think you can relate to the fact that when you started Future Quake to when you ended Future Quake, you were in a completely different place from where you began.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like getting a degree. It was an education. Taking a time in my life where I could actually focus on issues that mattered rather than just earning a living. And you start dealing in this stuff and you have a very idealistic, simplistic view of things. And it started quickly too. It was probably within about the first 2 years of the 7 years of the show, I started having some major changes. But then about the last 2 or 3, it migrated further until I was ready to start writing books rather than just having other people on that were doing things. And I mean, it changed me more than the listeners. And sort of like what you were talking about, in some ways it alienated me from the listeners because I felt like I was still growing and learning. And a lot of the listeners liked the good old stuff, the good old days, more Nephilim, more giants, more, weirdness.
Yeah.
But they didn't want to face what was really going on, and so that's sometimes sort of the sad thing, but you can't turn back.
Yeah.
You gotta go where your heart and your head and your conscience take you. Let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah, absolutely. I've had a completely similar experience.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think, I had things from a certain perspective when I first started. And now 10 years later, I don't know if in any fundamental way that I'm really changed, but definitely a way of looking at the world that is quite different. Does anyone want to add anything to that? I just get your thoughts on that.
I mean, I think really anyone who's in this stuff for more than 5 or 10 years, if you're not changing your mind, you're probably not. Then you're probably just reading or looking at the same stuff. I really I don't know from an early age as a kid, I've come from more being interested in like paranormal, UFOs and occult stuff, but my mind has completely changed 100 million%.
My understanding of that stuff has changed a million.
Oh yeah. And from a lot of the people right here, so and partly because of your show and just books your show has hit me too and stuff. But yeah, I think my mind's probably going to change in next year about a lot of this stuff. So that's kind of the fun of it. I think it's an intellectual pursuit, like you said.
Oh yeah. for sure.
You know, that's why there was a bigger thing afoot beyond just the experience that's a Conspirinormal or Future Quake or similar show. In your migration, once you focus on a study, and that is, there's been such a change just during my lifetime on the information that we're privy to, because it wasn't until I was 32 years old that it began to be just the inklings of the internet being available. And for probably the next 4 or 5 years, it was mostly a handful of hours with one of those AOL discs until you used up the hours on it. If you remember those things going out in the mail everywhere. And so, you know, you didn't really have, widespread, broadband and all that kind of stuff to around the beginning of the millennium. And so back in those early dark days, it was really something for someone like me. I mean, it's like dark ages to come across a chick track in a public bathroom and to see all sorts of weird conspiracy stuff you'd never heard, or a UFO book, or you'd hear something. And, you know, it was just about right that time around 98 or 99. I'm always late to the table for everything. But when I found out about Art Bell, I didn't even know about that. You know, people have been listening for years, and I heard about it on like an NBC profile or something on Sunday morning and started finding out how more widespread. But, you know, what I'm getting at is that these days, the days of innocence are over.
Mm-hmm.
Now any information is available in one form or another within moments you can find. You can find old books, buy them at eBay or Amazon or archive.org or old articles or whatever you can get. Now we're in the problem of sifting out what is BS or maybe half BS and what has some legitimate truth and maybe applicability to our days. And that's why in my presentation at your all's last conference, Strange Realities, I ended by saying, we're at a point now where you have to sort of figure out what your basic values are and actually vet those basic values very hardly. I mean, really figure out where they came from, who they came from, how old are they, how robust are they, how much can you be confident in them? Because we're in information warfare where there's so much information that we have difficulty vetting unless you personally experience it. Now, I always recommend to people, you know, be careful of just catching clips on YouTube, clips on social media or whatever. You know, if you're going to hear somebody talk, hear them say their entire talk, listen to an entire press conference, listen to all of their testimony. And I know people think that's boring and, you know, they don't have time for that. But unless you want to be misled, you better be your own editor and not let somebody else edit your information for you. But ultimately, while this information that you all have covered has changed you and it's changed me and other people there, it just reminds us that the data is there as long as you can drink it in. It's available, but you still have to figure out what are your values. Do things like honesty matter to you, character, how you treat your fellow man and woman. These are the things that basically you have to sift through all of the noise to get to. So I think that's partly where, you know, my presentation at your last Strange Realities conference is sort of where I've landed through my journey, is getting back and trying to rediscover basic values. I'm still interested in all the weirdness completely, and I covered plenty of that in my talk, and we'll still keep looking for it. But when I try to sift it out to determine meaning, you know, there's so much like Christian prophecy stuff, and that all happened on my watch too. I read Late Great Planet Earth when it came out around 1976 is when I finally saw it in a Kmart. But that so dominated the evangelical world. And then they look everything through that Cold War lens, and now they've migrated to anti-Islam, and now it's anti-socialist. But that prophecy lens is so tainted how they're sifting everything. And it reminded me of something Jesus said about the Pharisees. He said, you see signs in the sun, moon, and stars, but you can't see the signs of the times. And that's a real indictment to me. You know, I've spent a lot of my life looking for signs in the sun, moon, and stars, or mysterious books, or, you know, discoveries. When what I really want to know now is, what are the signs of the times we live in? Because we're in some pretty momentous times. And I don't mean to be heavy duty here. You know, it's really a celebratory time, but, you know, that's where part of my migration. I don't know how you all feel about that, but I think we're witnessing something a lot more far out than some of the stuff we've all talked about over the years.
Yeah, I'd say that's true.
Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons that I like Conspirinormal and like being on the show and like listening to it is because for as long as I've done this, you know, I've grew up in that 80s and 90s conspiracy theory world and loved all the books. But at that time, a conspiracy theorist, it wasn't, I mean, there's always going to be bad conspiracy theorists. There's going to be bad apples in every barrel. But conspiracy theory was a way of honing your bullshitting skills, right? It was a way of figuring out, like, by listening to people, by reading, by looking at all the information, you honed your innate ability to know what was real and what wasn't. And now we've moved into this world where conspiracy theory is something that the masses are just supposed to readily accept. All critical thinking skills go out of the way. All discussion is supposed to stop. You can't find humor in it. You can't find joy in it. It is solely a mechanism of control. And, you know, when I'm talking to people, or even when I'm on Conspirinormal, like, there's an engaged dialogue. Everyone wants to know more information, and you're talking about it in an intelligent fashion. You're talking about it with the humor that it sometimes deserves, because it's whacked out some of the things that we're talking about, right? You know, you're absolutely right saying that, you know, we're in dire times. You know, at the end of my lectures, I always tell people, don't believe anything that I just said. If I said something that interests you, go out, research it, read it, find your truth, come back to me, and let's discuss it and construct an idea that we couldn't have done by ourselves. But don't ever believe someone who stands in front of you and tells you things, because it leads down dark and dangerous roads. By getting to know each other and creating these communities, you know, whether it's through a podcast or whether it's through lectures or books or writing, the whole point of creating those communities is to discuss, to grow and evolve our ideas. And I really think that you're right in saying, you know, not to get too dark on it, it's supposed to be celebratory, but I think it is kind of celebratory that, you know, you guys have created this podcast where people can come on. You know, I never expected you guys to talk to one of my mentors, Craig, on the show. And, like, you know, to go from talking about ghost stalkers to talking about the Kennedy assassination, everything, every door should be opened and every room should be looked into. And you guys do that. And I really appreciate it.
Yeah. And we appreciate you, John. I mean, you're like one of our just idols as far as how you approach this whole subject. And I mean, I was telling Steve when we had him on that, like, one of the most refreshing things I ever saw on TV was when I guess it was the first Ghost Stalkers episode, where you said something to the effect of, like, all this phenomenon is exactly the same. And it was such a perspective that you just weren't getting from other shows, no matter how high the quality was. And that was one of the reasons why that was probably my favorite ghost hunting show of really all time, and just how it was done. And just because of your perspective was so unique. And that's when I realized that, I needed to sit down and talk to you about it. And then you hooked us up with Craig, and which is someone that is extremely knowledgeable about history, especially, and has really done these deep dives into, I mean, he's made the assassination of Fred Hampton and trying to figure out what exactly happened. He has made that his entire life. And this is something that if you were to talk to kids now, they wouldn't know who Fred Hampton is. Maybe if they saw the movie that just came out a year or so ago. But, you know, guys like him and yourself that have been around for so long are invaluable. And also Jonathan Vankin is another one. He's someone that I had on, but we had him on back in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I mean, his book was just seminal to me, the 50 Greatest Conspiracy Books. I mean, I devoured that thing in the bookstore when I was 15. And to have him on was great, but also to have him feel exactly the same way we feel about the situation now was very edifying to us, that we're not all going crazy.
You know, one of the things, just quickly, when you said that, I was thinking, you know, I think it's so important when we're talking about what to believe and what not to believe, but the discussions that happen on Conspirinormal and why I think they're so important. There's a author named Muriel Rukeyser, and she said, the universe is made out of stories, not atoms. And I think that that's a really important point. Like, we have to know every individual story. And when you're talking about, especially something like history, you know, we live in a time now when a historical event happens, everybody immediately has an opinion about what happened, how it happened, and how it's going to affect. But history can only really be judged with some perspective of what has happened, with as many stories collected as possible, not the one narrative that you're given at the time. You know, you have to let things play out. And, you know, Craig was the one who taught me, you know, if there's a world-shaking event that happens and people are crying, that's actually the time to keep your mouth shut for a little while. You need to allow time for people to mourn, and you need to allow history to unfold before you can start making snap judgments about what it means and what effect it's going to have.
Yeah, that's very well said. Yeah. I mean, a good case in point would be something like the Kennedy assassination in and of itself, you know, and I don't think that even those guys that, you know, became the quote unquote conspiracy theorists about the Kennedy assassination, I don't think it started right away. And now we live in a media environment.
That was way later.
Yeah. We live in a media environment where it starts instantly. There's instant doubt.
Yeah, it took 40 years for anybody to notice Roswell, right?
Yeah, that's true. It's a good point.
You know, Robert Hyde, who's also been on your show in the past. In fact, I think he was on the episode we had there in the garage when the squirrel got loose. Didn't the squirrel get loose?
Yeah, they're Illuminati trained squirrels. They're trying
to the Illuminati assassin squirrels.
That's when I mentioned that they were looking for nuts. Remember when they ran across our laps?
Yep.
But anyway, Robert Hyde said once to me that when he tried to present information that was pretty provocative to people, he would not comment on like the most recent war because it was too much in the face of the people. This made me think of this when you all were talking about when people were crying to be quiet. He said he would often try to draw his parallels from World War I because you'll rarely meet someone who's really emotionally attached to World War I.
Right.
They don't know a whole lot. So you can point out some things and they're in a frame of mind where they could actually process some surprising information. You go later than that, like World War II, well, their pappy fought in that war and they're not going to believe, you know, that propaganda or much less the war on terror. So I do think that's a good reinforcing point you just said about being patient, and that's something I still got to learn on. And often I thought about a lot of what I write about now, about what's going on in the religious community here and the last 5 years politically. It probably will be better served in 20 years than it is right now because nobody's listening to anybody right now. I mean, we're getting a lot of information and sound, but nobody's really listening to each other.
You know, Adam. Sorry.
No, I'm done.
Oh, I was just going to say, Adam, you know, regarding the way that you've changed on things, because even in the short amount of time that I've been involved in these topics, I've had some similar changes to my perspective as well. You know, you're a shitty alchemist if you spend a decade in the laboratory and aren't any closer to the philosopher's stone, right? So, yeah, I think, you know, if you don't, I mean, it's the old Keelism, right? Belief is the enemy, but better put, calcified belief is the enemy, right? You know,
there you go.
A mind made up is a mind calcified, and it gets brittle and can break. So yeah, like I think it's really encouraging, and I think you should both be applauded, Surf and Adam, for evolving, because my rule of thumb is that I'm kind of disappointed if I have the same ideas that I do about, in my case, Fortean phenomena. If I have the same idea a year from now, I'm kind of disappointed, because I don't think, you're just not growing. And I think that's an important aspect. So I think it's absolutely natural. And, if you're involved in these things enough, for long enough, you do get a little bit jaded. Like some of the people in this room that I admire the most are nodding right now. And it's, I'm kind of a fan of this, Patrick Harper, Jeffrey Kripal, imaginal sort of idea that sometimes when legends get repeated enough, they become true. But at the same time, you have to develop that good bullshit meter, or you're going to be lost at sea. And, my mark of someone that I want to hang out with is the kind of person who yells at the TV when it's a pro UFO show, and who yells at the TV when it's, a debunking of the UFO phenomena. Like that's the person that I want to be hanging out with, because like it's so much more complicated than what we're fed, any of these topics. I just think that's a natural progression. So yeah, I'm proud. I'm proud of seeing the way that y'all have evolved in your thinking as well.
Yeah, thank you, Josh. I do want to say we were joined by Chris Corry is here, who's sat in with us a few times now on the show, and Heather has just joined us. Katie joined us as well. Heather literally has been, I think, a listener from day one, because Heather and I worked together whenever I started Conspirinormal. She worked with myself and Luke, so she literally got to hear the very first episode in all its glory. Who has heard the first episode? I'm curious about that. If any of you guys heard the first episode, Sophia has heard the first episode.
Is that still up?
It's still up.
Yeah, probably.
We'd
We'd like to hear your criticism.
Yeah. Well, you were on the second episode, technically, Mike.
Oh.
The first episode was the introduction episode, where we talked about what we believed, and I really think that if I listened to it now, I would cringe the entire way through it.
Like listening to you develop your ideas in the last, so I've been listening since 2014. It has been a pleasure to like watch y'all do the work, and because there are podcasters who are still doing the same party line as they were in 2014, 2015. And, the changes in cast, the changes in position or in approach are all really interesting to follow.
Yeah, now I know how Greg Ginn felt in Black Flag. Now I totally understand.
Yeah, people like going off what you were saying, Josh. Like people get attached, to whatever paradigms or things they become part of their identities, and I've had to let go of a lot of things like that recently, and the way that a lot of say like conspiracy cultures become so mainstream. It's like your favorite band, I say it's like your favorite band getting a major record deal, and their big corporate album like sucking, and now it's everyone else's thing and not just yours. And like I think a lot of us went through that and have seen that with UFOs too, to a degree. And it's like to grow, you have to get rid of some of those attachments, and you don't have to incorporate these things into your identity so much. And then like to what Tenney was saying, I think what Conspirinormal does really good is we make sure that everything isn't in a vacuum, and we have those historical roots to all these different lines of inquiries, because that's probably there's one big problem now with a lot of these subcultures, is that they are operating like in vacuums and they don't have connection to the roots.
Well, and just a lack of historical perspective.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, we've been sitting here bemoaning the state of affairs and in at least America, but really is sort of a global thing. But like, I think a lot of that can just be traced back. And I said this during, you know, Mike Hughes's presentation at Strange Realities. A lot of this can be traced back to just, I think, the failings that we have with educating our young people to not think critically and to honestly to have a blind trust in certain people. You know, if as someone who has twin toddlers, like right now we're going through a phase where they're not listening to authority, but I'm kind of like, okay, I'm kind of rooting for that still a little bit to just keep that strain, you know, listen to me right now because I don't want to get hit by a car, but like just hold on to that and break it back out later. But honestly, you know, I think we need to be teaching our young people to be critical thinkers, to do research on their own. You know, the upside is that there are technically more people reading than ever before in world history. You know, the bad thing is that they're reading stuff, you know, all on their phones. That's completely, you know, they don't have to be gatekeepers, but I think that's important to develop this and nurture the skill to go into a field that you know nothing about, and then start to feel out who the reputable, you know, the reputable sources are, and to just use some common sense and basic like logical deduction. But that's not emphasized anymore, and I don't see that getting any better, honestly.
I think the rise of the podcast really helps with that in this field, though, because you would get maybe 30 minutes with a guy on Art Bell, and then their book, and they're really on guard. They're trying to put the best foot forward. But like 2 hours into these podcasts, and some of these people really start telling on themselves. And I think, you know, back to Dr. Future's admonition to listen to the whole thing. When you listen to the whole thing, you get a better feel for who's straight and who's, you know.
Yeah. That's really well said. I mean, I have to say that one of the things that I have enjoyed being someone who was a listener and, you know, is now involved in the community, you know, though you guys are crazy for having me as part of this. But is that, you know, I think that you've had the ability to, I totally lost my train of thought in agreeing with Jennifer there. But you've had the ability to sort of reshape yourself as these narratives keep on changing, and be able to kind of, I think, at least stick to the truth, like not, you know, amidst a real sea of chaos, as everybody has said. I found that there are a few podcasts, you know, that when you hear the extended sort of, you know, line on each of the hosts, when you hear what they say after 3 hours of podcasting and really get to know them through that weird sort of parasocial relationship that podcasts, I think, have generated recently, you haven't really disappointed. You have remained cool guys, and you have not gone nuts, I think. On top of all the other things, you know, being good researchers and having, you know, great guests and stuff like that, is that, you know, at no point did I ever feel like, oh, well, they just said, you know, something comes out. And same with the guests that you have on. I think that the way in which you curate the voices that you put forth is both I think fair and you know, diverse, but at the same time, you know, you're being smart about who you are amplifying.
Yeah, and I think that's very well said, and it's I think that's very, very important for me, because it's, especially in the last 2 years, it's kind of been like, well, there's another person that I won't have on. Damn it, I really wanted to have them on, but now I'm just not going to do that because I really don't want to give that person airtime, or I don't want to, you know. So it's becoming, the downside of that, it's becoming harder and harder. But I think you just got to dig a little bit deeper.
Yeah. And open up to the community. You know, there's a lot of other people who aren't like already established paranormal or whatever personalities, you know, who've got probably way more intriguing things to talk about.
Right. I heard a voice chime in. I don't know who
that was. I'm sorry, that was me.
Okay.
Well, no, I was just going to say, you know, yeah, you guys have actually, for myself especially, listening to you guys, it inspired me to actually take a chance and get out there and start doing my own thing. And it's great that John Tenney's on tonight, because I was just going to say, the first episode of Ghost Stalkers really kind of set me down a road of critical thinking and exploring the paranormal in a way that I probably wouldn't have thought about, 15 years ago. So, what you guys are doing has inspired a lot of us to, take a chance and get out there and start doing our own thing and exploring our own theories, and having the courage to, apply critical thinking skills and think on our own and develop new theories. I think that's something that's been missing in the paranormal, especially, is people having the courage to step outside the box and say, okay, well, what's this possibility, and could this be a reasonable theory? So yeah, I mean, it's something that you guys have done, and I'm happy to have discovered you guys.
Thank you, Pandora. That's awesome.
Yeah, if I may just kind of jump along what you just said, I agree. Like, a show like this is to somebody who's kind of been, on the sidelines his whole life, just, reading about this stuff, and I've taken it very seriously my whole life, but until like the last couple of years, I haven't really done much of my own research or got out there, like you said. But your show definitely, and a lot of the people you introduced me to inspired me to go out. But not only that, I felt like I was, for a lot of us, maybe we're late, paranormal bloomers, but I don't think I was ready until I'd heard enough people talk about this stuff. So, because you hear people who have been in the field so long, and you can hear the mistakes they made, and you don't have to. Like, I always go back to the book Messengers of Deception by Valet, and that book is full of cautionary ways to go about looking into this stuff. And so I think, having, you can probably go out there too soon into the field, maybe, or maybe you learn as you go. But for a guy like me, being a guy in the sidelines was a great way to do it. In your show, really helped, kind of galvanize me to get out there and do it. So thank you for the inspiration.
Thank you, Steve.
That's awesome. Thanks, man.
Let's bring Timothy Renner. Timothy Renner is here, everybody. And Timothy Renner, thanks for being a part of this tonight. And you are also have been a guest many, many times on Conspirinormal, along with Josh many, many times, both of you guys. And we recently had you on talk about the your latest multimedia book event, which is really, really cool. So welcome, Tim, back to Conspirinormal, man.
Oh, thanks for having me. I almost missed it, and then I fell asleep after dinner because I'm an old man. And then I woke up in the start and said, "Oh, I'm supposed to do something." And
all good. You've also been a part of the last 3 Strange Realities too. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on the show. 400 episodes, man. I think you're approaching 300 right now.
Yep. So, we're barreling towards 300. I mean, to stick with this, and the thing I try to stress for people is, if you hear an hour podcast, I think some people think, oh, this guy's had an hour of fun putting that together. And it takes so much longer. Unbelievably longer. I mean, really, it takes a week to put together the show for the week in one way or another. Sometimes you get lucky and one just falls together, but I know what it is to do a show like this every week, and to have 400 under your belt. Amazing. Kudos to you guys. Congratulations. Conspirinormal is a show that I hope is always there. I mean, we've talked about collaborating, more and on different things in the future, and I'd be happy to. I love you guys, and just congratulations. I know the work that goes into getting to one episode, much less 400. So kudos.
Yeah, well, we love you too, Tim. I mean,
thanks, Tim.
Someone that is also an inspiration to us as well. And
for
just
sure.
The sheer volume of work that you put out, not just podcasting, but books, music, everything, art, everything. I mean, you are the definition of the Renaissance man at this point.
Thank you.
Speaking of frequent guests, who officially is the most, has made the most appearances on Conspirinormal? Is it me?
You or Dr.
You
Future,
know the
probably.
answer, Josh.
No, honestly, I thought it was almost Walter Bosley there for a hot minute, right?
I would really have to sit down and do that and look at all 400 episodes. You're definitely up there, Josh. Tim is also up there. Dr. Future.
I don't think you should count any of the episodes Josh was on with me, though. Those should go in my column.
Okay.
Nice.
Well, I think that would go both your columns, but yeah, definitely Bosley.
I would assume it's Dr. Future, though.
Yeah, I think probably Mike.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'd say so too.
we just did like the show at the end of the year with him was number 12 with Dr. Future. And then I've also had Mike sit in on episodes too. So, and we've done Patreon episodes with Mike that some of you may or may not heard. So I'd say, yeah, probably Dr. Future wins it hands down. But I would honestly have to, go back and look. But I would say you and Tim are pretty close behind. I mean, it's not even.
You know, Adam, if you were a real podcaster, to prepare for this show, you would have gone back and listened to all 400 episodes and listed them out. So we'll expect you to do that for the 800th episode.
I actually for the I think it was the 100th. No, it might have been the 200th episode. I actually did count all the guests that I had on to come on and talk. I actually, because I did short segments with each one, Dr. Future actually did this before. I stole this from him. I actually did map out each episode that they were on and like said that, but I realized it was so boring that I didn't.
You'd only have to listen to your year review podcasts. So that's only.
Wow. Yeah, that's true. Those only start with like, I think the first one we did was 2015. So I think that those only start with like episode 60 something.
What was the release schedule before it was weekly?
So when I first started, I actually did it every 2 weeks. And then it slowly moved into every week. And some of that was because I wanted to get certain people on, but maybe they couldn't come on at a certain date. So it just kind of slowly morphed into that. But now it's every week, except for when we take little breaks here and there, like we do after the conference and Christmas time and that time.
I didn't know you had started every other week. That's how I started too.
Yeah. We started every other week at first, and it slowly morphed in. I would also say that Chris Ernst and Chris Corry, you guys have been on quite a lot too. And a lot of that has been sitting in as like Chris Corry sat in as almost like a third co-host at certain times.
Yeah.
So we've got you guys on a lot. I'd say that Chris, there's no way you've been on Conspirinormal more than Where the Road Go. But yeah, that's
no, I'm on that a lot more, but I've been on a few times and it's always been great and I always look forward to it. I mean, it's a different experience because it's a completely different show.
Yeah, and Gullius has been on quite a lot too.
Yeah.
Could I make a suggestion with all this debate about who's been on the most? That what you really should do is have a 5 Timers Club where you make a nice velvet smoking jacket for all of us who've been on at least 5 times, so we could have sort of an elite club.
Well,
maybe a lodge or something.
We do have several secret societies.
I bet Tenney's going to get his velvet smoking jacket.
Yeah, I know.
Tenney's like, right back.
There you go. I called it.
God bless.
One like this.
Look at that.
We could maybe.
That is handsome right there.
Majestic.
Yeah.
Absolutely ridiculous.
Nope.
Well, we got a couple of people that have joined us. Phil Buck. If you guys were here for Strange Realities, you guys definitely should recognize Phil.
And he is our in-house graphic
Yo, what up?
designer.
Yeah, he does our graphic design for us. Everything that you see now for Conspirinormal, Phil has done.
Babyface Phil now.
Yeah, I know. And for Strange Realities as
It's
well.
a little weird.
And he actually did all the audio-visual stuff for us at Strange Realities, along with Ren as well. So
Yeah, I was gonna say huge shout out to Ren because I couldn't have done it without Ren. I mean,
yeah, he couldn't be here tonight. He had something else going on, but yeah, it was definitely you two guys really made that happen. So that was quite an experience for you, Phil.
yeah. I didn't know I was getting into 100%, but I knew about 80%, and yeah, that's why I say I couldn't have done it without Ren, because once I flew from Colorado with all the gear that I own to Nashville and showed up at SIR, I was like, okay, we're gonna make this work, but a couple aspects of this I didn't quite realize what I was getting into, but hey, we pulled it off. It was amazing, and it was just such a great opportunity to be there with all y'all, because I've been watching so much of this. Nobody really knows me, but I've been watching y'all on the videos and stuff for the conference for a while, so it was cool to be there.
Yeah, he's edited the videos too, so he definitely knows all your faces. So, John, were you going to say?
Oh, I was just going to say, when I was joking about you listening to all the episodes, I was doing some research last week, and I don't know exactly how correct this might be, but 10 years ago, the number for podcasts available is somewhere around 50,000. So 50,000 podcasts 10 years ago. Right now, it's almost 3 million podcasts. Yeah. Wow. But of those 50,000 10 years ago, there's approximately 2,000 that are still going. So you're one of those 2,000 that have made it 10 years.
Wow.
Boom.
Holy shit.
That's something.
Pretty big
break
deal.
it down like that. It is.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Just don't know when to quit.
Yeah. We don't.
I think all the other ones actually struck it big with big multi-million-dollar media deals.
Yeah.
So there was just 2,000 that didn't get them.
Your chance to sell out is coming.
Thank you, Dr. Future, for making me
I
feel
just want to
better
encourage
you. And
okay, well, let me just say real quick before you lose me, because it's a school night for me now. I'm making an honest living working with children.
Congratulations.
And, you guys are, the best thing about the show is that you're not selling anything. Like, I know you have the Patreon, but I've said it before too. There's no agenda. There's no that's why it's so adaptable when you guys do change how you feel about something or you evolve on something. It's not a big deal because you're not, it's not like you're changing teams.
Yeah.
And I really have so much respect for what you guys have done and built over all this time. And it's so fucking cool that you don't have an agenda, that you don't have some line that you're pitching us, that you're not signing people up for classes. And I'm not disrespecting anybody that's how they work. I'm not trying to lower anyone, but I'm just saying, I really, really think it's cool the way you guys have run this. And I'm sure I'm not alone in that. And before the night is over, I just wanted to get that in there. And also, it's been so nice to get to know you guys too. And the Zoom things really kept me going during the pandemic. So, thank you.
Yeah, we're hoping to see you here in Nashville.
Those Conspirinormal supplements you sold me, though, they are they're doing me well.
Good. It looks like they've turned you blue, and you're all good.
Yeah, Tim, you look like a healthy.
And we're hiding the gold in the freezer. So thanks for that.
You mean I'm the only one that bought the robe from you guys?
Yeah.
No wonder it cost me $5,000.
The Conspirinormal suppositories I bought are also working very well too.
Oh dear.
A big Berkey water filter.
Now Chris is not going to want to come down to Nashville, guys.
See Crane Radio. That's what I was thinking. Sorry.
That filter.
Joke's over, but I just had to blurt that out.
We'll
because
just
of that
Chris
water
at the
filter.
merch table.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that water filter you guys sold me, all the frogs in my neighborhood are now straight.
And don't forget, Ramona loves gold dipped roses.
Yeah.
And her Beijing clock radio.
Yeah, I remember that.
No, when he says that, it's so funny because I remember working overnights at the radio station playing Art Bell, and that was right around the Y2K. I'm really
aging, they're selling all
really
kinds of
aging
shit.
myself.
Mhm.
But you know, the meals ready to eat, and you have to buy all this food because everything's gonna, go to shit on January 1st, 2000.
Art was the best at doing those drops, like out of nowhere. He would say, coming up in the next segment, we're going to talk about if aliens are actually living on the moon. Ramona loves gold dip roses. Your wife would love gold dip roses too.
He was the man for that.
I want to congratulate you on 400 episodes.
It's really helped the show with all the MyPillow products that they're hawking now on Conspirinormal. I think Mike Lindell's really helped these guys a lot.
We signed a contract. Like
the pillows are stuffed with Coke, right?
No comment. Patrick, were you saying something?
Oh, I was just gonna say Art Bell was off by 20 years of the world going to shit. But it would have been. I would like to have heard him now with over the last couple of years. What would Art Bell shows be like?
Yeah,
he might have.
What would that be like? What would that be like?
By now, but
yeah, that's I agree with Steve. I think he might have gone in a direction that we might not want.
Yeah, but who knows? Hope for the best.
Exactly.
Sometimes it's better not to know, guys.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You either die a hero or you live long enough to become Linda Moulton Howe or something like that.
Oh dear.
I saw her getting. Did anyone see? I know that was going around. I'm not trying to bring up UFO gossip, but did you see that interview? That I can't remember the guy's name. It was quite something. He was just really asking her honest, candid questions. He'd be like, "So how can you put that out there?" Actually, and she freaked out. She started going about her daytime Emmys in Stanford and stuff. The whole. It was. I loved it. I have to admit. I love
Chris
drama.
Corry. I sent that to you. Josh actually sent it to me first, and then I watched it, and I sent it over to you. And I think you were kind of shocked by that because you're a super.
We
fan.
love Linda in this house, okay? I understand maybe her credibility has lapsed, but hey man, the movie's great. I put it on at least once a year. And, she got out there and she took a shot.
Big time.
I understand, I get it. But also, I don't know. I think it's entertaining. I think she's cool. I don't believe anything she says, but
well, this sort of reminds me of something I said when some other older ufologists were coming under fire last year, and I said, your grandfather may have stormed Normandy, but you're not about to press a bayonet into his hands nowadays. So I mean,
it's true. And I mean, at the end of the day, she got. We all know the story. She got led down some bullshit paths, and it happens to a lot of good researchers.
Yeah.
In all, not just in UFO land, but in conspiracy land and wherever else too. So we love.
One
Linda.
could argue that that's part of the phenomenon itself, part of the self-negating part of the phenomenon. And I think that we all know that there's a reason that Linda Moulton Howe gets more scorn than some of her even more out-of-pocket peers. So.
Yeah.
Here.
Well, and I think there's something to be said for, doors being opened that might not have otherwise been opened. We have to think about the time and when they first came on the scene. And if they hadn't come on the scene, would other folks have followed? So, I feel like you have to kind of take it as the time when it occurred and then, go on from there.
Yeah,
totally.
Don't forget Dr. Frank Stranges.
Yeah. I think the big lesson too that we all kind of learn at some point on our journeys too, though, right, is that like our heroes never asked to be our heroes, you know, and one of the hardest things that we can do is let people go, you know, once they aren't fulfilling the need that you have anymore, once they seem to be leading down wrong roads or what you believe to be wrong roads or incorrect paths, like there's no problem walking away from it. You know, I think like Josh was saying earlier about, you know, a solidified belief system, you know, what we're learning, what our generation, perhaps younger and older and whatever's coming around now is kind of the fluidity that, you know, stagnation is the enemy, that the universe has only ever showed us that it loves to create and change. And that's what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to look up to this. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to make a pithy joke. I used to look up to this Tenney guy, and then I started hearing him talk, and it was just...
That was a mistake.
I want to get into what some of you guys are working on now, but before we do that, Steven Snyder is here. You guys know him as Recluse. Steven, what's up, man? I guess.
Oh, what's up, guys?
There he is.
Hey.
Hey, how's it going?
Not too bad. How you everybody tonight?
Good, good. We're just talking about the podcast. I wanted to get your thoughts on any of your memories of the show and anything you might want to say about it, or you know.
Oh well, I mean, I know. It was always special for me the first time that I was on with you guys in Doc Future. That was for the Knights of Malta one.
Yeah,
it was a couple of years ago, like 2018 or something like that. You know, that was the first time too I'd encountered Doc, which was really great. Obviously, subsequently, I've gotten to know him in real life. I mean, he's a wonderful human being. Doc, I'm apologize again that I have not called you yet. I'm profoundly sorry about that, by the way. I have just been so insanely busy since I got back from Somerset, man. It's been nonstop.
The cat's in the cradle and the silver.
You two are very similar, prolific researchers.
But yeah, that just meaning Doc Future alone will always hold a special place in my heart. So that would probably be the first thing that really stands out to me in, you know, from fond memories, I guess, in Conspirinormal. And then also doing the Strange Realities Con. I mean, that was just like an unbelievable experience for me. Really doing both of them, but I mean, especially the second one and being in person with everybody. It was the first time I'd actually done a con in general of any kind. So it was a really cool thing. So yeah, it was nice that you guys kind of spurred me to do something like that. And, you know, in general, the whole kind of networking thing has been really cool. So
and
I know that's not entirely related to the podcast, but
no,
it is. I mean, that's you're touching on something that we really like to do, and that's connect people. You know, we like connecting our guests and people we talk to. We like connecting with our fans and turning our fans into guests and letting their research get out there. So that's I think that's one of our strengths.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, and that's, you know, kind of something that I've seen with my own thing too. But I mean, I think the communities that sort of grow out of this kind of stuff is a big part of it. Because, you know, ultimately, I mean, not a ton of people, I mean, really, you know, I think approach the kind of work with, you know, this kind of these tons of topics the way that a lot of people in this chat do, with this sort of multidisciplinary approach that tries to look at it from a lot of different angles and what have you. So, I mean, you know, we don't always, you know, make for the best conversations at normal parties, you know, at least in my case, or work, or really anywhere. I don't actually I try to avoid really talking about anything that I do related to my actual interests with normal people in general nowadays. So yeah. But you know, it's always great though when, I mean, you can kind of let your hair down and really talk about the things that are important to you.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah, that is important.
We really thank you for you know, joining us in the conferences and being a part of the podcast and this community.
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. And yeah, anytime you guys want to head back up to Somerset, Kentucky, let me know.
All right, we'll see you there.
Timothy Renner.
Nathan here. Did you guys get Nathan in here for tonight?
No, he hasn't shown up yet. Maybe he will later.
Okay.
Timothy Renner, thank you so much for being with us, man.
Yeah, man. I'll pop back in if I can, but I have a little podcast of my own. I got to go record something for it.
Yes, sir.
Strange familiars.
Thanks for having me, and like I said, I'll pop back in if I have time later.
Okay.
Awesome,
cool,
man. Thanks.
Thank you.
Congratulations, guys.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
brother. Stephen, and I just want to point out you will be with us again in Nashville. We already talked to you about that when we were in Somerset, so looking forward to that. We should say,
yeah, no, I cannot wait.
October 14th through the 16th is going to.
Oh, you already got the dates figured out. Okay,
yeah,
groovy.
Yeah.
I guess I got to start thinking of a topic then. My gosh. Well, I guess I could do the extropian ones. You guys want to hear about extropians this year? That'll be like a much lighter presentation than the modern sex
I'm
culture.
sure anything you come up with is going to be fascinating.
That's one
Who
thing I
are the
learned.
extropians?
Yeah, I didn't know this either, Jennifer.
You gotta wait until the presentation. For goodn's sake. I would tell you all about the
that's great.
extropians then and the great wonders of the crypto revolution.
Oh, those dudes. Okay.
And, but I want to talk a little bit about what you guys are doing right now. What everybody's getting into. Josh, I'll start with you because you just said you just finished your book. Stephanie Quick is here. Stephanie Quick can say hello. And
Hey, girl. Hey.
Stephanie.
Hi. How you guys? How you doing?
Good.
Nice seeing you all.
Thanks for joining us.
Oh, thanks for it's a lot of fun. Congratulations on 400 episodes. It's pretty exciting.
Thank you, Stephanie.
That's a lot.
It is a lot.
Yay.
Joshua, what are you working on right now? The new book?
Yeah, so I'm continuing to plug away on the ufology tarot project with some other friends of the show, including David Metcalf and Greg Bishop and Susan Demeter.
Where is Metcalf? He has not shown up yet.
He is a capricious beast. He shows up and he's sometimes there and sometimes not. He's kind of like the Cheshire Cat, I guess. But impending soon, anytime, I'm assured, I will have a collection of essays that I edited coming out about fairy films, or rather films that deal with fairy folklore. Some of them, in non-obvious ways, some of them more obvious ways. I'm an editor and a contributor to one of the essays, but it's a real rogues gallery of people that I was fortunate enough to work with. And then, my next big book, or I guess books, because it's going to be a two-parter again, even though I didn't want it to be, is currently in the editing phase with Barbara Fisher, whom I've just been blown away and humbled to work with. The breadth and depth of her knowledge is just fantastic. But it's called Ecology of Souls, and it started off trying to dissect that Anne Strieber quote about this has something to do with what we call death. She told Whitley. But, when you talk about that, you end up talking about so many other things like reincarnation and life, but basically everything. So it sort of evolved into my current theory of the paranormal, which tends to focus around the cycle of life and, just the ecology of souls. So that's in the editing phases right now and should be out towards the end of H1 2022, God willing. So excited about it.
Nice. Yeah. Is it going to be a two-parter?
Yeah, it's about 260,000 words right now. So yeah, it's going to be a two-parter.
Sounds like you've been hanging out with Dr. Future and Steven Snyder.
Yeah, and it's not a virtue. It's to have something that long. But I think there's, it'll probably be a little bit shorter. I think there's some fat to trim, but yeah, it's definitely going to be a two-parter. And the first half is talking about everything. Basically, the first book is the background that you need to unpack that quote, and then the second book is pretty much just UFOs and cryptids and how these motifs reassert themselves. So we'll see. At multiple times throughout this process, I kind of feel like the sophomore director who's given a big budget and just makes a complete bomb, a complete expensive bomb. So we'll see if that's what it ends up being. But but I wrote it for myself, and if anybody wants to read it, all the better.
Nice. I know that you've been going down this path for a little while. I can remember being with you in when we went to go see the dwarf castle there in Johns Creek or whatever.
Yeah, in on the outskirts of Roswell. Yeah,
you were talking about this. So
yeah, I mean, and that's sort of, I'm sort of giving myself a little bit of grace about how long it is because yeah, I've been writing this thing in my head for the past like 4 or 5 years. And I remember when I was actually thinking about my next project, I actually asked you, like, should I work on this or this? And you said, well, you've been thinking about this other thing for a while. So yeah, it's not a life's work, but it might be my paranormal life's work to this point. So yeah, and again, I hope to have a completely different idea in a year, but I'm quite enamored with a lot of the ideas so far. So we'll see.
Nice. Yeah, definitely looking forward to that. And
thanks, Adam.
As always, we're going to have you on whenever the book comes out and talk about it.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I'll try to send you an abridged version.
Nice.
Yeah.
I of course will devour it just as I have the other books. So, is there a tentative title on this one?
Yeah, Ecology of Souls.
Ecology of Souls.
It's a term. I don't know if he was the first person to coin it, but it's a term that Terence McKenna was quite fond of when he talked about the DMT realm and saying, at some point you have this revelation and you ask yourself, have I just entered an ecology of souls? So I thought that was a nice way of summarizing, again, not only the death aspect, but also the cyclicality of it all. So
we're going to need you to repeat that in your Terence McKenna, famous Terence McKenna impersonation voice.
You wind up in this. Hold on, I got to take out an earbud so I can make sure I can do it right.
Already perfect.
You find yourself in this sort of space and you're just surrounded by all these things and they're coming up to you saying, it's so nice to see you. You send so many, but come so rarely. And you ask yourself, have I just entered an ecology of souls?
Bravo.
I love it.
Thank you.
Oh, that's amazing.
Chris Ernst, things that you've been working on. I understand that there's going to be a film.
Yeah, there is. It's sort of it's kind of just gelled and taken shape recently, but from the fact during the pandemic that Soraya is sort of the closest person in proximity to me, I saw him and he took me around to some places that he's had some experiences and talked about. And then I sat down with him and, we talked about just in general, his theory on things and the history of where did the road go. And that's sort of shaping up into a film right now. I'll probably go back to do some more with him, have him take me around to the places again. And I think at this shooting for the sneak preview at the Strange Realities. Have a premiere then. Don't know the length, don't know what it's called, but it should be fun. And think of it sort of in a style of like Maisel's Brothers. So it's a lot of just like Soraya telling his story and telling his stories and walking around, which, at least that's what I'd rather have.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Awesome.
Grey Gardens-esque.
Grey Gardens-esque, yeah. He does a little dance with some flags.
Yeah. Ooh.
And John Tenney's gonna have to get out of here in just a bit, but I know you're working on something. You've always got something in the works.
Well, obviously the pandemic hit, but I'm still in the midst of trying to collect, starting at like the end of 2017, really hitting in 18 and 19, where all of these weird, like, for lack of better word, creature humanoid sightings in Michigan. And it was hard to collect and compile a lot of the information as soon as the pandemic hit, but that's still supposed to come out this year. I've been working on titles for it, and I don't really know what to call the incidents because they're all so different. I think I talked to you about it before, but I've talked about it on podcasts before, but people were seeing everything from, 3 foot by 3 foot square, fuzzy floating boxes to triangles with legs that ran through walls. And, putting the book together is just, looking at if there's any similarities between them. And what's really interesting is because of the pandemic, it's given me, if I would have written it when I wanted to and when I thought it was supposed to come out, I would have missed some things that have happened to the experiencers that now seem to be looking like there's lasting effects from those experiences. So I've just putting it together as a little journal and looking at all the statistics. So that this year, and then hopefully this year will be this. I put out a book a couple of years ago called Theoretical Weirdo, which was kind of an experiment. And then this year is Anecdotal Weirdo, which is just stories of weird shit that's happened to me throughout my life.
Yes, please.
Do people still see that, like, what is that thing in Detroit, that elf or whatever? You know what I'm talking about? The little gnome.
Yeah, so I'll quickly hit that just for listeners. So Detroit has this legend, which is called the Nain Rouge, or the Non Rouge, which is the Red Dwarf, and it's based on one story from the 1800s, and then a retelling of that story about 50 years later. And it's this supposedly evil red demon that runs around Detroit and causes all the problems in Detroit. And now there's a big parade every year they have called the Marche de Nain Rouge, where 5,000, 6,000 people get together and they symbolically march the red demon out of Detroit. Well, I go there every year and I protest it because I've talked to the Native Americans that are still here in Detroit, and I've talked to the historians who live in Detroit. And the original story that the whole legend is based off of is a French-Canadian story written by this 22-year-old woman who was telling a story about the red men in Detroit that were causing all the problems and how they had to be gotten rid of. And so now here we are 120 years later, and we're symbolically marching the red men out of Detroit because the red men cause all the problems in the city. And I keep telling the parade people, this is you're on the wrong side of history here. This is a very bad retelling of a legend, and maybe we should be honoring the people that created our city instead of trying to march them out.
Yeah, because we know the red man reaction is satisfaction.
Right.
Thank you, Dr. Future.
I assume somebody out there knows the commercial allusion I have made.
Dr. Future is extremely good with 1960s, 1970s television references, everybody.
So that wasn't a red man bar or two?
What was that?
I was like, so I thought that was like a bar or two from Red Man. I was confused for a second.
Red Man chewing tobacco has as their. See, if you're a redneck like me, you would know. They would say Red Man reaction is satisfaction.
See, in Detroit,
they sponsor NASCAR.
In Detroit, it's Thunderbird wine.
Right.
What's the action? Satisfaction. Thunderbird wine.
Didn't Fred Sanford drink Thunderbird?
He did. Thunderbird and Ripple.
Yeah.
All right, gang. I got to go. Thanks for having me on. Congratulations on 400 episodes. It was good seeing everybody. Have a good night.
Absolutely. We'll see you in October.
All right.
Take care. So, Vincent Treewell, you have apparently been making the rounds lately on some of the stuff you've been studying, and we're gonna get you on the show. I think here it's coming up next month.
Oh, that'd be great.
What have you been looking into lately?
Well, okay, I have this little sapling of a podcast that, like, you guys have done 10 years. I've done 10 episodes. So it's just like, getting it started. The weird part with Vincent Treewell, which is now available where podcasts are found. But yeah, I've been working on some things. I actually talked with Stephen tomorrow and putting together, I'm going to, be on his show. I have a novel out there that, not the one that's currently available, but one that should be coming out this year that is, it's fiction, but it's very much related to the stuff we talk about here. And so that should be happening this year. I'm also working on a nonfiction book, which will be the first nonfiction full-length thing that I've written. and it's about the history of people's attempts to use technology to contact the dead. And there's a lot there. Thomas Edison, Nikola Tesla, a whole bunch of people going from way back to the present day, trying to use electronic technology to contact the dead. I just thought that was a pretty interesting topic. So that's what I've been working on. And the next episode of the podcast should be about the influence of someone that I don't know how many people will get the reference, but I know Dr. Future will. The Rebecca Brown, back from the Satanic Panic era, and how much effect her books, He Came to Set the Captives Free and Prepare for War, and her subsequent books had on creating a really toxic conspiracy subculture within evangelical Christianity. And there's a lot of material there. And she never got really famous like Oral Roberts or Jimmy Swaggart or, the Bakers, but she was hugely influential. And there's a lot of meat there. Let's see, I've been pretty busy, and hopefully some things will develop.
That sounds fascinating. Can't wait.
I'm really looking forward to it, and maybe we can get a chance to discuss it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we will. We definitely will. Mike, are you familiar with what Vincent is talking about?
With Rebecca Brown?
Yeah.
Just a little bit. I didn't get too deep into that. I was there from the Mike Warnke era. It was on my time, but I went to a pretty straight-laced Southern Baptist church, so they didn't get too much. Now, there'd be some people there at the church who probably on their own, but, cable TV and stuff was just starting to come around. There was other talk shows where they would have that on, but I would make a recommendation. If you want to look into more of that stuff and find more data, there's a show that's produced out of Chattanooga for decades called the John Ankerberg Show. And that was just the kind of stuff that they would have on that show. And I think probably a lot of those shows are, if they're not archived up, because it's still in production, not archived on his site, they would probably be on YouTube, because they would get big into that whole satanic panic kind of stuff. I mean, they actually did reenactments of Masonic ceremonies where the guy dressed up in the top hat and a little apron, and they would redo all that. It's a fascinating show. I'm not saying they were even-handed by any stretch, but it was sort of like a Phil Donahue show for Christian stuff. But I think they got into that. So if you've not looked at that data source, it might be somewhat interesting.
Yes, really familiar with John Ankerberg from yeah.
Okay.
That's a treasure trove of stuff right there.
Yeah. Yeah, he'd have guys like Walter Martin and other people who represented mainstream Orthodox Christianity, but they would, dive in pretty deep to those topics, and then have guys like Dave Hunt on who would show that it was a sign of the times, and a heavy Southern California emphasis, which that's where you're talking about that stuff has its roots, is in Southern California. We think about all these other strange religions that came out, and there's a strain of Christianity that's just as strange, and it's tied to John Birch Society and Orange County, and they were really behind even Barry Goldwater getting nominated. But that whole thing is where a lot of the satanic panic came out of, in Southern California.
Pandora Blackthorne, are you there?
I'm here.
You're working on some stuff right now that has something to do with our area, and that actually you're going to do a presentation at Strange Realities this year.
I am. I'm really excited about it too. I'm really looking forward to it. Yes, I've been interested in the story of the Bellwich probably since I was a second grader at Donaldson Elementary and took home the little green book that all the kids were checking out because it's the Bellwich. It's so scary. But what I've been exploring lately is really researching the activity and other activity that was going on at the same time at various places around the world. And I've come down to the idea that there were probably 3 or 4 different types of activity that was happening at the same time, and wasn't necessarily what one would think of as a ghost. And I've actually going to be releasing a book, hopefully by the end of October of this year, that explores those theories and, you know, ties them in with the location, because, you know, the location of the Red River settlement, which became known as Athens, Tennessee, it's a very interesting location because it's, you know, south of Hopkinsville, and we all know that's where the Hopkinsville goblins story out of the 50s. Then you can come right over, almost draw a line to Somerset, Kentucky, and from then toward Hellier and toward West Virginia and Mothman. So I feel like it's going to be a really interesting presentation, and I feel like I've developed some interesting ideas, and I'm really anxious to share them. It's really been an interesting journey, and I've, you know, explored it a little bit on my baby podcast, but I'm really looking forward to interacting with others on it and getting some more input and sharing it with other people.
That's super interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely something to that area. As we were heading up to Somerset a few weeks ago, and I was actually telling Sophia about another weird thing that is in that area in Franklin, Kentucky, which is Octagon Hall.
Yes.
That's a weird place too.
Yes. And you know, what's really fascinating is that if you really take out a map and you look at, you know, Athens, Tennessee, Hopkinsville, Kentucky, Franklin, Kentucky, Mammoth Cave, Somerset. I mean, all those places are, you could almost draw a line through them. And it's just fascinating. And I really have been amazed. You know, my grandfather had a farm up in northern Kentucky, Owen County, which is a pretty rural area. But I remember some of the stories and the legends that, you know, the old folks used to tell. And so it's been a really interesting journey to put all those things together. And it's just pretty fascinating.
It's always great when there's a personal connection. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm always thrilled to have a new creative, interesting take on Bellwich, because if there's anything to it, there's a lot of other stuff going on there, I think, that it alludes to. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Oh, for sure. I mean, if you really look into the accounts that were shared at the time, there was definitely a lot of different things going on. And I think if you look at the concept of egregores, thought forms, it's been an interesting journey for me, because I really didn't expect it to take it in the route that it did. And it was kind of an aha moment more than anything else when I realized, well, now, wait a minute, this probably wasn't a ghost, but I bet you, you know, dollar to a donut, it might have been this. So yeah, it's been very interesting.
We tried to take a small party there after Strange Realities. Josh was with us up there to Adams, but I don't think anything was open. But we got to the gate and got some photo ops.
Ooh, well, we got to see the graves. We did get to see the graves.
True.
Yeah. I went there when I was in high school, and it was an experience. I'll say that. I mean, I think I'm not sure if I'm dating myself, but I graduated from McGavock High School in the late 80s. And we took a trip up there, and it was pretty intense, because now that was way back when it was still kind of a no trespassing area, and you really weren't supposed to be where we were.
Cool.
So I'm not sure if it was more teenager scaring ourselves or what, but it was definitely an interesting experience. And I think that there's a lot that is going on with that particular property and particular area. that needs to be explored. And I'm hoping to be one of the people that really, really delves into it and figures out some things.
That's awesome.
Cool. Is the Bellwich house close to Nashville?
Yes.
How close?
Yeah. 30 miles, right?
Oh,
for 30,
I'm
40
going
miles.
in October
like
for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. We'll go back up there. There was
things should be back open probably.
Yeah, there was not much going on, but like I said, we did get to see the graves and all that, which is fascinating. And Pat Fitzhugh, who's like Tennessee's expert, well, really one of the world's experts on the Bellwich. He lives here in Hermitage. Have you got any contact with him?
Yes, yes. I think a lot of Pat. Pat is actually Pat Fitzhugh is one of the people who inspired me. Actually, on my podcast, I give him a lot of credit for the information that I've been working with. He's amazing.
Kiki, you said you investigated Octagon?
I did, like ages and ages and ages ago. When I first got to Nashville, I don't know, from now, maybe like 13 years ago or so, I was with a small local paranormal group and they did a paranormal investigation there and I went.
Any impressions or anything? I know was Paul Browning, was he involved with that? I know he's investigated the Octagon Hall quite a lot.
The name isn't familiar to me.
Yeah.
It was a small group in the Nashville area, and I'm really thankful for the experience. I just don't think I consider myself a night owl, but I'm not that much of a night owl to record EVPs at 3 a.m. So
yeah.
But I definitely had the feeling that there was something there, and we captured evidence. At least I felt there was evidence captured. You know, there were unusual pictures. I felt like there were things there. There were different areas that I recall feeling were really active. It was really cold there too. I don't know if that has anything to do with how haunted it was or not, but yeah. Very old, beautiful, beautiful area. I think Tennessee in general is just, you know, wonderful to visit. I remember, what was the other one we did too? Ripa Villa. Have you ever heard of Ripa Villa?
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, it's in near or in Spring Hill. That's another place that we visited too.
Okay. Yeah, Octagon Hall is an interesting place. What was it you said, Sir Phil, about the shape of the octagon? You said something about
the square becoming a circle.
Yeah, it's like very liminal. Yeah, that's an interesting history. Recluse, what are you working on right now?
I'm still working on my book, which I will hopefully finish here by the spring. At least I'm really praying to. God, I think it's up to like almost 200,000 words now. I mean, obviously I'll probably edit out some stuff, but the problem is I keep asking like people to like read it, and then from there everybody's like, well, you should add this and that, and I'm like, it's already 200,000 words. Does it really need more? But yeah, I just keep coming up with more material that ties a lot of the stuff together. So I've been trying to find ways to work it in. And then there's going to be the epilogue left to right, which is going to be just absolutely epic and batshit crazy.
Hey, all right.
It's going to be kind of a twist because the whole thing's going to be like a really scholarly account until the epilogue. And then people are just going to be like, what the hell is this? But yeah, I'm excited for it. And then obviously I've got all the ongoing shows that I'm working on. I'm going to be doing quite a bit of traveling this spring, so I'm trying to record as many shows as I possibly can. I just did one actually with the Penny Royal guys last night. It was a real barn burner. It's a lot of insane stuff in there about James Shelby Downard. It's going to be in the subscribers section tomorrow. And then as Vincent had said, we're about to, I think actually, yeah, we're recording a podcast tomorrow. It's going to be another really killer one. I got some other cool ones coming up. I'm hopefully going to get to do a one on time magic that I'm excited about with somebody who's kind of studied the, cybernetic cultural research unit system on that. I got another installment of the International Fascism series with Danny and Russ coming up. There's some really cool projects I'm working on.
Awesome. Keep delivering. We'll keep consuming your content.
Thanks. I mean, I definitely appreciate everybody, man. It's been quite a journey doing the podcast and all this other stuff.
Yeah, you guys should definitely check out Steven's podcast, The Farm. It's kind of interesting, Steven. You took that podcast over and you've really made it your own. How exactly did that happen?
Well, I mean, it was originally Frank Zero was the one who had founded the farm. And we had, it was a bit more blunt, and then we had revived it when we had Strange Tales, the Parapolitical, to come out, as kind of a way to promote the book, I guess, essentially. But, it kind of took on a life of its own. And then, as time went on, Frank, had some life obligations where he just wasn't able to do it as regularly. And I kind of, became the de facto host of it, essentially. So, it was a gradual process like that, but I still like to, get Frank involved. In fact, he's actually going to be coming back here, hopefully in a couple of weeks for a show or so. It's, kind of actually going from one extreme to another where now, I have just so many people who, are coming to me with ideals for shows. It's great. But I'm always just, it's a little drives me crazy sometimes because there's always so many people I want to have on, and then I'm constantly having all these other shows that, people are pitching to me that sound great too. And I'm like, man, I just want to do all of them. But it's a good problem to have, certainly. It's a very good problem to have. And it's, I think it also kind of adds to the diversity of the show, which is something I really try to emphasize a lot. I'm really proud, for instance, of some of maybe more of the spiritually themed ones I've done recently. I really like the one that I did on the Cosmic Gnosis one. I like the one on Gnosticism did with Andre Gagne a couple of months ago, and a few of the other ones along those lines. But yeah, it's always kind of a challenge trying to find some different things to do. But I do want to try to broaden people's horizons. So if they came to it from parapolitics, maybe they'll learn something about synchromysticism, or if they came to it from synchromysticism, maybe they'll learn something about folklore or something. I don't know, but like I said, I do try to mix it up as much as possible.
Yeah, it's definitely a very unique show, and I really appreciate you doing it. If you're looking for really good long form interviews and discussions, Dr. Future's been on there a few times now as well. So
yeah, no, it's always great to have Doc Future on there. It was great having you on, especially for that, what was it, the second International Fascism show. I loved getting Doc on there with Russ Belant and Danny Weil. Of course, Russ is the author of The Corps Connection and Old Nazis, New Right in the Republican Party. He's been doing this just really in-depth parapolitical research for a lot of years now. And Danny has done a lot of stuff with that as well. He's been focused more on the educational system, but he did a lot of activism during Iran-Contra, just with a lot of other stuff. The guy actually moved, I think, to Nicaragua actually to discourage, the U.S. from bombing some locations there, during that whole era. But yeah, I mean, I really wanted to get Doc on there because, I mean, my eyes, he's this, the caliber of researchers, guys like Russ and Danny are, so I mean, I was pleased to be able to hopefully get Doc out there to an audience that follows a lot of those guys, and that, those old sort of counterpunch kind of era, that hardcore parapolitical research from the 70s and 80s, because I think that's the kind of stuff Doc is doing now on a really important subject. So it was great to get him in there with that. And just in general, I'm really proud of that series and some of the other guys. I got George from CapDev on there, and we were kind of able to do, some of our stuff with the serial killers and, kind of the connections to Phoenix and some of this other stuff that I think is really interesting. And then, getting Brisson back on there. And I mean, I think I might even have a few other guys in line for some of the latter ones, but it's also been fun, doing like one of these kind of long form series again like that. It's the first one I've really kind of tried to do since Wackle one, I think. So yeah, it's cool.
Excellent. Let's turn over to Dr. Future. What have you been working on, Mike?
My taxes. No, that's not really exciting. I have this big, long, drawn-out taxes because I do a home office deduction and I have to go through all these credit cards. But I don't make any money. It's like the worst of both worlds. I make no money, but I have to do all the bookkeeping. So as far as research goes, I had to go back and redo a bunch of stuff because the trademark came through on the book publishing thing. And so I had to take all 9 versions of my book down and redo them and then somehow get them re-uploaded. So finally that's done.
Sounds like fun.
Oh, and they always crash. It's real temperamental, and I don't know what I'm doing. So, but I had that and some other things I'm doing. But my goal is going to get volume 2 wrapped up now. So, focusing on that. I've got some more blog posts. I need to wrap up. I wrapped up the False Flag series about January 6th. I don't know if people have read that on the Two Spies Report blog that I do. But I'm going to try to finish up another series here called The Lost Cause, where I compare what happened around January 6th before and after to the other great lost causes in history where people think that they're losing their society because of some trickery and they were betrayed, and what happens when you get night riders and stuff like that, It's really weird. Adam Kissinger, the congressman, they were asking him the other day, and I heard this on, I listen mostly to about 6 or 7 hours a day of hardcore Christian talk radio every day, or talk TV, and mostly anti-vax stuff. But I subject myself to that to record, to make sure I hear it from the horse's mouth. And also there's a new network, I don't know if you all have watched, called Real America's Voice. It's for people who think OAN is way, way too liberal. You can go to Real America's Voice. It's sort of anchored with Steve Bannon's show. And in fact, the guy, one of the Kansas City prophets I talk about all the time, he's got a show on there too now. And it has not, he doesn't say anything about Jesus. It's just about, not Warnock, I forgot the guy's name. Anyway, he was the one that was pushing Trump as God's chaos candidate, but he has a show on there now. But anyway, they were quoting Congressman, the congressman, for saying that when they asked him if, because he suggested civil war was starting in our nation, and he said he didn't think it would be like a conventional civil war, but there would be targeted assassinations that are going on. Adam Kissinger was saying this. And then here we just had, right after that, in my hometown of Louisville, the Democratic candidate for mayor yesterday, the guy came in and tried to assassinate him. Really? And I know we had Adam would know a little bit about this from like in the late 1800s, the anarchist trying to take out Garfield and taking out McKinley and stuff.
Garfield was just a crazy guy. McKinley was an anarchist that shot him.
Yeah. So I wonder if we're going to go through a more intense wave of that. I don't know. So anyway,
let's hope not.
Yeah, some things I'm keeping an eye on, but I do have to make a confession because I am going to get off here in just a couple minutes. But I wanted to just confess to you that I do congratulate you all for making it 400 episodes, because I lost a big bet. I bet people when you came on that you wouldn't make it more than just a few episodes. And I was absolutely sure that it would fail after a few episodes. So I had to pay Paradox Brown a lot of money because she'd put a lot of money on you. So, and then when you lost your other co-host there, I knew things would fall apart because I knew Adam certainly couldn't carry it. So, but I hadn't planned on the Surfiel factor coming in. So,
well, we lost Rob or we lost Luke, Dr. Future? Which one?
Luke, the mastermind, Luke. I knew when you lost him that everything was coming unglued because you were more just a puppet and front man. But
yeah, you got me.
Somehow things stayed together. So, my predictions about Conspirinormal were about as poor as my predictions were on Future Quake. So, in spite of it, you have prevailed. And so I've had to eat my words that it was going to be a miserable failure. And you've done well. Well, because you have such low standards for the guest you have on. And yes. I speak of myself in particular. But I do want to congratulate both y'all, kidding aside. And you know what it did remind me of? I don't know if there's any old fogies that are still on this, but when I suddenly realized, you had the three of you there, and then suddenly Luke disappeared, it reminded me of that song Timothy. Do y'all remember Timothy? That was like a really big hit in like 1971.
The song about cannibalism.
Yes, exactly.
The three miners get trapped in the mine, and the two miners eat the other miner.
Right.
Yeah. Continue, please.
Big song. It was written by Rupert Holmes, who did the Pina Colada song. But he wrote that as a song that they were getting ready to drop this band, the Buoys, and they didn't know what to do. They couldn't get any kind of help. So he thought if he wrote a song that everybody banned on the radio, that would be the only way they could get recognition. And as it turned out, it became a big hit. So the mysterious whereabouts of Luke, it just made me think about that song Timothy is one of the possible scenarios. But cannibalism aside, I think you all have done a yeoman's job. And I will say this, when I've dropped in on some of your other chats and things like this, they don't have me much on Christian, podcast or shows at much anymore, because I think I've honked them all off as a practicing Christian myself. But when I come on your show and I just eavesdrop on the people on here, the general nature of the discussion is so much more intelligent, far, far more intelligent than when I go, I'm sad. It's a lament to me to say on the Christian shows I go to, it's extremely juvenile. I don't always understand what everybody talks about on here. May not agree with it if I did, but I will say it's a very lucid and intelligent and fascinating discussion. And you guys are the ones that have created an environment to go find these kind of people. So that's the best compliment I can give both of you guys.
Thank you.
Is that it's an oasis of intelligent people, maybe talking about far out stuff we don't all understand, people, dummies like me, but you have created an environment where it's like the last outpost of intelligent people to sit and have a chat. And so I'm just glad it exists. And you are charitable enough to have losers like me on your show, because it's like the only place I'm allowed to go. So
well,
I want to thank you for that.
Thank you. And it is very important for people to sit down and have a conversation just like we're doing. And instead of just like getting away from these 30-second sound bites or whatever, or just
Right.
hearing somebody talking for 2 hours or whatever it is. I also too, Dr. Future, you guys have probably noticed he comes from the Rodney Dangerfield School of Humor, and he's very self-deprecating. But please, like I always tell him every time that we have him on that people see him as a true Christian and really genuine. And I hope some of you guys that listen, you know, can kind of encourage him to keep doing what he's doing, because it's very easy, I think, sometimes for all of us to really get discouraged at certain points.
Yeah. Well, this is the only place I feel welcome, to be honest. You know, I send out tons of books, tons of hardcover books.
So you've been sensing the curses I've been placing on you each time you appear on the farm. Then I take it, Doc.
Well, you see, that's where I figured why Ren wasn't here. I figured he was doing some kind of working against everybody.
Yeah,
here.
that's what he's doing. He's got his circles on the floor, and he's.
Last time I saw him, he blew some dust in my face. I don't know what that was about, but anyway. But again, it's just an environment here where somebody's going to be on their toes. I mean, I feel relaxed when I'm on here. It's one of the only shows where I just feel like I can be myself. But what I was going to say before is I send out all these nice hardcover books, my book, to people who I think will resonate with what I'm writing about, even people who were on my old Future Quake show and told me that, oh, they sold so many books when they appeared on Future Quake and our big audience, and these people were book buyers. And you know, I send stuff out to these old friends and I never, ever hear back from them. Never even get an acknowledgement. Don't return calls, nothing. And so it's a weird time of life. And so I'm just glad you all are in my life. And I guess that makes me, you know, like really sad what I just told you, but I just really appreciate you guys there. And I know you put up with me because I'm ignorant of what the rest of you all know commonly, and I don't always get it, or I'm coming out of left field, but you still let me, like the dumb uncle, sit in the corner and you know, throw a blanket over my head when it's time for me to go sleep. But I do sure appreciate y'all letting me hang in with the crowd.
Anytime.
You should get on TikTok. I think that there are a lot of like younger people coming out of the evangelical movement who are doing a thing called deconstructing, where they look at their beliefs that they were raised in, and then they turn Christianity into something that's workable for themselves.
Yeah.
Who would be interested in your thoughts on the political and the social implications of what is being taught currently by the older generation and how to criticize that while still staying in?
I'll have
TikTok.
to look into that. I thought you had to twerk to be on TikTok. I didn't know how it worked.
I have seen you. You could throw ass too.
Okay. Well,
hey, Doc Future, I just wanted to tell you, I saw people referencing you, people that are just random mutual friends in comment sections just earlier this week. So I appreciate your, you know, self-deprecating humor, but I just want you to know, like, people out there that probably don't even ever say anything to you about it are appreciating you. So just thought I'd throw that out there.
Encouragement. I needed that because I don't ever hear any of that. Thank you. Do they put like a lot of exclamations and ampersands and stuff around it? Asterisks?
They just want you. They're like, I hope he will twerk on his next. You know.
Well, the next time we have, you know, uploaded to YouTube this show, I will be ready.
Nice. Oh Lord!
And if you think Kim Kardashian's got junk in her trunk, wait till you get me up here. By the way, how does TikTok have a limit on how long they have to be for like short attention spans?
It's like 2 minutes, isn't it? Something like that.
2-3 minutes, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how that's gonna work with Dr. Future.
Yeah,
no, like my really good friend actually kind of became a bit of a TikTok sensation. She had the one video that was like 20. I think I told you about her. She was the one who set up the lesbian tent at Burning Man. You know, she's into like riding motorcycles and trying to fire handguns off of them. But yeah, like she basically like speeds her voice up and all this other kind of stuff, like when she's doing it. Like, yeah, she explained it to me as she tries to make it sound like, you know, when you do the chipmunk voices when you're trying to like listen to like a dozen podcasts in an hour or something while you're jogging. So I guess that's maybe the approach that really appeals on TikTok from what I can tell.
Sounds like that would fit me pretty well.
Dr. Future, those songs that you were talking about earlier, were those redone by the sound effects?
No, they were done by the original artist as opposed to the sound effects. Although you'd have to get like the 30 record albums that the sound effects released of all the knockoffs of the original artist to know for sure. But every year they released 3 or 4 albums that were fake recreations. I don't know if anybody knows what we're talking about.
Oh yeah, K-Tel got mine $9.99 back in the day. Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Did you ever get ripped off and found out that you got the sound effects singing it rather than the original art?
Yes, they did. And I was a little girl at the time, and I had just seen Star Wars, and I thought, here's this. I can get this record of Star Wars music for $9.99, and yeah, it was the sound effects. I got ripped.
Why there weren't congressional hearings on that, I don't know. Although it would be
the sound effect
cool.
lobby.
Yeah, yes, big sound effect. It would be great to have the sound effects be a surprise co-host at Conspirinormal sometime. You'd get the fake Adam and fake Surfiel.
That sounds excellent. Well, we've been joined by I think the life of the party is here. So
a phantom clown.
Yeah, the phantom clown.
A phantom smoking clown.
Yeah. What's going on? Celebrate good times. Come on. What's going on? Conspirinormal 400 day.
This is an omen.
That's right, Tim.
You did it. A lot of people said you guys would never make it, but I was not. Well, I was always saying you guys had it in you.
Appreciate that, Tim.
Well, thank you, sir. We appreciate that. What's going on, Tim?
Oh shit! It's Tim Banal.
Put the mask back on.
There we go. Dude, that thing is awful. So what the hell are we talking about? Dr. Future sound effects or something?
I'm going to pass the baton off to you since we now have adult supervision.
Oh.
You have to take the baton. I feel like one of the knights there in the Indiana Jones movie. I'm passing the Holy Grail monitoring off to you. So
all right, as long as my face doesn't melt like in the movie, right?
Well, I'm going to go to the land of my fathers right now. So, hey, love all of y'all. Thank you so much for putting on me. And that goes even for Tim, too.
Dr. Future!
Although with Tim, it's more of an erotic component.
Oh, boy. I joined in just in time.
Y'all well, I'm just glad I'm on for 400 because I'm almost certain we're all going to be dead before 500. So I'm glad I made it when I did. So, y'all take care. I guess I'll catch you, if anything, on the end of the year show, if not before then. So
yeah.
You have a good evening, Doc Future. You're a national treasure.
Awesome. See you later.
We'll see you in Nashville, right? We'll see you in Nashville.
Yep.
Yeah.
In
Oh, yeah.
October.
We'll catch you here unless it might be protested. You just never know.
That's true. Yeah.
I mean, who knows what we're in for this year. So.
That's what we're hoping. We're hoping for protests this year. We need some publicity for strange realities.
Hey, I'll lead a false flag protest. How about it? I'll burn.
All right.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I'll set up some fake Twitters and try and get you canceled.
We're gonna go over to Global Vision and let them know that there's a witchcraft festival going on in Nashville in October.
Yeah. I'm going to burn some of my own books. And I'm going to stand in the middle of them like Fahrenheit 451. Y'all take care. Have a good night.
Take it easy.
See you, bro.
Bye, Dr.
Salmonella. Take care.
Okay. Well, welcome, Tim Banal. Welcome to the party.
What's going on? How long you guys been rocking in here? Like 2.5 hours?
Yeah, about 2.5 hours at this point.
A little while.
Damn.
So
nice.
Sophie's gonna have fun with this one. So how's everything going with in Tim Banal's world, and what have you been working on lately? That's what we're talking about.
Well, I've been the show went on hiatus inadvertently in January. I don't know. I was just kind of wiped out.
But I had a lot going on, and so we're bringing it back Friday. So we'll be back on Friday. I've already got a bunch of weeks already booked out. So yeah, I think I'm waiting for like final confirmation, but it looks good. I might touch base with Cutch to get a better contact method for Zelia Edgar, but Zelia Edgar is going to be on the show Friday. But we're kind of playing message tag right now through Facebook because neither one of us apparently uses it very often. So, but she's down for Friday night, so we should be back Friday night with Zelia Edgar, and then a bunch of cool episodes through March, and we'll see where it goes from there. So, yeah, kind of itching to get back to podcasting again after that little break here at the start of the year. This year's been like shit for everybody, it seems. I don't know what's going on, but like everybody I've talked to, like, has been kind of down on this year so far. So hopefully things turn around.
I just think it's just the blahs of January and February.
Yeah.
Let's hope so.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's about to warm up, so that's all I care about.
I know. I'm ready for spring. I'm usually one of those people that doesn't really care that much, but this year it's like I'm just so ready for so ready for spring to come. You know, it's just this winter's just, I don't know, something just off.
We were very sad to learn of the passing of the great Sir Ralphus.
Yes, yes. That's what forced the hiatus. I just had no desire to do anything for, I think I went into like a depressive state for, I guess, about a month. I'm kind of just coming out of it now. So I didn't expect that at all. Yeah. I've always been one of those people that like someone's cat dies or whatever, and I'm like, get over it, you clown. You know, now that I have had a pet for over a decade and then lost it, I've come to I'm like, I was ignorant. I didn't know how powerful that could be.
It'll wreck you, man.
What's that?
It'll wreck you.
Yeah. It really messed me up good. It really messed me up real good. It's very disorienting. You know, Ralphus was here all the time. It was daily, you know, sit and drink coffee in the morning with him, that kind of stuff. See him every time I came up for another cup of coffee, and then he's just gone. And it's like, it's not even like a person. So you can't even be like, hey, it was always this mysterious sort of creature and it's just like, now he's gone. It's like, oh fuck, man, this sucks. So
I'm sorry, man.
It was a rough go of it, but you know, I've settled into the new normal now. So, but it was very disorienting at first.
Well, Tim, we've been asking everybody, what's your thoughts on the evolution of Conspirinormal and how you met this guy Adam and everything, and your experience with Conspirinormal and the community we built around it.
I met Adam in Atlanta at Paramania 4, which is, as of now, the last Paramania. We're hoping to revive that too soon. And so, yeah, Adam had come down for the event, and I had only heard of Adam before. I was not part of the Conspirinormal family then, but then we kind of hit it off down there in Atlanta, and we had a lot of laughs and shit. And so yeah, then we connected afterwards, and yeah, Adam's become a good friend of mine. We talk a lot on the phone, and so then I was always impressed. I know you've been part of the show for a while, Sir Fiel. So same with you, but I've always been really impressed just by how diligent you guys are about getting shows out like every week. Greg Bishop and I talked about this on my show a couple of years ago, that it was like doing a weekly show is like being a distance runner or something. Like you have to be in that kind of like shape. You have to have that kind of like endurance. And so, you know, like this past December, I came out and did like 4 or 5 shows. And it was just like, by the time a month went by, I'm like, fuck that. I'm done for a while. I'm not doing shows. So I've always been impressed that you guys just keep churning out shows like week after week after week. And sometimes like multiple things going on, you know, and it's, I've just always been impressed by that. You guys really hustle, and, you know, and then putting together the Strange Realities conference and pivoting, I guess it was now, I was going to say last year, but last year we came back to Nashville. So pivoting in 2020 and really kind of you know, a lot of people would have just thrown in the towel and been like, "I'll forget it. We'll come back in 2021." But you guys really kind of, you know, you picked up the ball and ran with it and devised that online version of the event. So, yeah, no, I've always been really impressed by your hustle and the fact that you guys just keep on going. And, you know, I'm a big fan. So, yeah.
Appreciate it, Tim.
Same to you as well. I mean, you know, we're big fans of yours as well. And you've been doing podcasts for, when did you start? Was it 2005?
I think so. Maybe, yeah. Yeah, I think 2005. Yeah, I'd have to go back and look, but thereabouts. Yeah, I think it was 2005. So, yeah, 15, 16 years. Although the last few years have been kind of like very sporadic, but that's fine.
Sure.
I paid my dues. You know, I gave up my 30s to do this.
You did the back-to-back seasons for, that was 9 or 10 years, right? That was a
yeah. We did like 10 seasons of the show with like 30 episodes each, and kind of broke it up like that. And then I was kind of just tired of doing it that way, and wanted to have a little more freedom with when we would do shows and stuff. So, yeah. So I don't know. It's kind of do shows when I want to do them, but I don't want to be one of those people that does a show like in February and then you don't hear from me again in May. Then I come back and just do one show in May or something like that. Like I want to at least string like 4 or 5 together and then maybe take a month off and come back and do 4 or 5 more shows. So, you know, but there's always people I want to talk to and you know, programs I want to do and stuff. So it's really just a matter of time. That's why, like I said, it's really impressive that you guys carve out the time every week to do this. It really is quite a commitment, you know. And so I have a lot of, to get all the way to 400 is pretty awesome. So congratulations.
Yeah, and it's been,
thank you.
It's been 10 years for me. And I mean, Sir Fiel's definitely put in his time as well in the last 4. And honestly, something I neglected to mention, I mean, this essentially really is like Sir Fiel's like 200th episode.
Wow.
Really, essentially, because he started, first time he appeared, we mentioned this before, but first time he appeared was episode 200. Josh, you taking off?
Yes, sir. I have baby duty in the morning, so.
Cool.
All right.
See you, man. Thanks for everything.
Great.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, great talking to everybody. Congratulations, guys. And yeah, I'll talk to all of you in different ways soon.
Later, Coach.
All right, bye,
everybody.
Bye, y'all.
Thank you so much, Josh. All right.
I love when someone jumps off and like the screen like rearranges.
Yeah, it's a whole new thing. Yeah.
Everybody gets a little bit bigger.
Yeah, you readjust your chair. Yeah, you know, change the energy around.
It's like a reality show. Like someone gets voted off, then it's all of a sudden it's like
it's just
he's the only one left on the island.
12.
The elimination has occurred.
Yeah, exactly.
Guys, I'm gonna walk into the ocean too and eliminate myself from the staying away competition.
See you later,
congratulations
Chris.
again, and I'll talk to you guys soon.
Thanks for the story.
See you, bro.
Have a good one, Chris.
So, only people that I've not hit yet, as far I think Kiki, Stephanie, and Steve. Steve, we'll start with you. What are you working on right now?
Well, I've been kind of having to travel back to California for work quite a bit this year, so I haven't been able to do as much fun stuff, but I still have been going out and shooting these like weirdo videos of just me like going to these kind of, you know, some more famous but some not famous around Nebraska, kind of like paranormal or ufological places of importance. And what's the interesting thing I think I talked about in your show is that by looking into these stories, like I'm getting so many more little stories, you know, just kind of like little threads to follow. And I'm finding like these, you know, interesting patterns that kind of have not been discussed in the state of Nebraska. So it feels like, you know, kind of like this great undiscovered microcosm of weirdness. So I'm going out there every chance I recording myself talking about these places, you know, what I know about the history and stuff. So, but eventually I'm trying to, and now I just download some editing software. So I have to figure out how to use that. And then I'm just going to start throwing them up on YouTube just for fun, and maybe 9 people from Nebraska will find it interesting, but or not. But I'm just really having fun doing it. It's kind of my way of getting out there, boots in the ground
Nice.
a little bit.
Awesome.
Yeah, having a ball with it.
Very cool. And Stephanie?
You got to unmute.
I know, I was trying to figure out how. First of all, that's exciting about Nebraska because you have the whole. My brother lived there for a long time. He's retired Air Force, so he was off it. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'm right by there. I'm in Omaha.
He lived in Papillion. Yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
so
sure,
there
yeah.
is that whole aspect there of the whole military industrial complex, and of course he was working as a spy. He flew those. I think that Trump just decommissioned that whole program, the 737 rivet joints with those big mile-long antennas. They were huge. Yeah.
Weird.
He was like second in command flying those for like a ton of years, and I think it was in the 90s. There was an incident where China actually shot down one of those jets and captured the crew and a bunch of the computers. It was like this really big, bad, very fraught thing.
Was that like right when W took office? Like it was before 9/11? Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yes. 2 weeks after, this is, okay, I have to brag about my brother, the super stud. So 2 weeks after that, he was in one of those jets, second in command, flying the same route, and they just had those Chinese jets were like right on their tail. But did they get shot down? No. Did they get captured? No. Yeah. So of course, when he retired, there was he got a lot of accolades about that and everything. Although it's kind of one of those.
That's interesting.
Yeah, pretty well. But yeah, there's that whole thing. I was thinking about his whole career recently because there was just a few days ago, I live in the Napa Valley, and there was a small private plane that had to have an emergency landing in a valley here. We have a lot of these kind of alpine valleys up in the mountains surrounding the main valley of Napa. And it turned out that this pilot had sent out a Mayday, and they'd done a lot of backcountry flying, and there was actually a U-2 spy plane flying way up. And so the U-2 plane was able to help triangulate with help this person navigate so that they could fly and land safely. Oh, hi, Mom. Anyway, so I thought that was interesting because I'm always looking at lights in the sky, and I was out walking one night and I saw this very strange light in the sky, but I thought it had to be some type of a plane because it was like along one of the air lanes that I'm used to seeing planes fly along here in the valley. And I talked to my brother, and he said, I think that you saw it was like a heavy twilight. He said, I think that you saw a U-2 flying back up to this particular air base because they fly so high, they're way out. You see them a lot farther out than you would normal planes, and it was catching like the sun at this angle. And because he had flown so many of those flights, he was able to say, yeah, I've seen this happen, and I think that's what you saw. So anyway, I think that's really wild that you're looking into Nebraska because these Air Force bases and where you have all these different type of spy planes and undercover, different types of technology and stuff is very interesting.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's really cool.
Yeah. I'm having fun with it.
Yeah. So yeah, for me, well, I just recorded Joshua was talking about working with Barbara Fisher. She's been a new voice, light presence on the paranormal scene the last year or so, and with their 6 Degrees of John Keel podcast. And we just recorded another show on Bigfoot and gender. We had recorded a show previously on sexy Sasquatch, which actually people got a big kick out of. It's this whole other side to these entity encounters, which are kind of, people like to joke about it and stuff, but a lot of people report various sexual or erotic kind of stuff happening with these entities. It became very popular with Antonio Villas-Boas, the abductions, the Greys, of course, Bud Hopkins, David Jacobs, Missing Time. A lot of these people thinking that they had hybrid babies and stuff, but it turns out that there's this whole aspect to Bigfoot encounters, both in contemporary accounts, in pop culture, people writing like Bigfoot erotica.
Yeah.
There are sex toys about Bigfoot. Let's leave it at that. It's like really on people's minds. But anyway, so we recorded another show, and it was fun because Steven Snyder with the farm. I loved the recent show that you did on folklore.
Same.
Yes, and talking about you know, the history of the idea of folklore and some of the theory and practice that has gone into people trying to look at folklore more in a systematic way. So we looked at that in regards to Sasquatch, indigenous stories, prehistoric stories, the whole idea of the green man. And so, yeah, that's been a lot of fun. I studied anthropology in college at like UC Berkeley, and I'm of the same era of George Hansen. There with he studied anthropology as well, the structuralists. So yeah, it's a lot of fun to apply these ideas to these para-weird concepts and to people's encounters with cryptids. So that's been a lot of fun. And I've been getting more into, I have an ongoing interest in trying to present some of these academic models. Like Dr. Future was talking about, trying to approach these things a little more rigorously. It doesn't have to be dry, obviously, because then you can end up talking about the biology of Bigfoot, reproduction and stuff like that, which is kind of fun. But you know, there's various models that you can use. You know, anthropology, you can look at it from the historical angle, like with Aaron Golias looking at the history of some of these things. Wham, you had Professor Wham on talking about some of her work, and she's done like American studies, which is more kind of like history, folklore, sociology all together. She's also done a lot of history of religion and bringing that to bear on these type of things. I did a show on with Soraya and David Metcalf on Where Did the Road Go, talking about trying to take more multidisciplinary approach to the para-weird. I have been a bird watcher for about 30 years and I'm obsessed with birds, but what strikes me is it's one of those areas where the amateurs and the scientists and the artists all work together. You know, just because you are a person who is out there you know, banding birds and looking at bird migrations on radar, this type of thing, very hard science approach to birds does not, they don't fight the people who are just have a bird feeder in the backyard and count the birds. They don't fight people who want to do like a performance art installation about birds, right? Everyone works together because you're all fascinated with birds and they all are in service of bird conservation. I like that whole idea about Pennyroyal with Nathan Isaac talking about narratives, right? And saying what narrative are you buying into and how does it serve you? What does it serve, right? That's why these people are all able to come together about birds, because they all love birds and they want to express that and they want to be able to carry that legacy of love of birds forward and support individual birds, bird breeding populations and stuff, right? And so I think in the para-weird, sometimes like you have like the nuts and bolts people, they get mad at the people who are looking at like the imaginal or the mythic aspects of like UFO encounters. But I think we can all work together because it's different aspects, but of the same phenomenon. So that's my sermon for tonight. But that's what I'm interested in.
We appreciate that. And before we like stop everything, I know it's getting late in some people's time zones. Kiki, what are you working on right now? And I know one of those things is going to be what you're going to be doing for us coming up here in a few days, next week.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. I didn't say hi to Steph or Steve or Tim. Hi you guys.
Good to hear you. Good to hear you.
Oh, thank you. Well, so yeah, and I'm glad that I'm chatting because I'm actually like 30 minutes late to take my nighttime melatonin, so I got to get going soon. So, but yeah, I also just want to say too, congratulations on 400 episodes. I'm really partially grateful to both of you because I feel like getting involved with Conspirinormal and Strange Realities has just opened up this wonderful community to me and allowed me to meet so many wonderful people. And I'm just so thankful. And so thankful to learn, you know, like I always just say, I'm like, well, I'm just the witch that just wants to read tarot. So I'm always so happy to, you know, just be part of a community that teaches me so much and inspires me to learn, you know, beyond just my little tarot table. So thank you. But yeah, I'll be teaching tarot in a couple weeks with you guys. I'm so excited about that. I think we're gonna have a good time. It's just gonna be really laid back. And then, you know, we'll have the opportunity to do some interactive exercises with tarot together. And, you know, I hope that maybe if there's time or interest, I could talk about my obsession with tarot of place and how I love to associate different tarot cards with different locations and the spirit of places that I visit. And then otherwise, what am I working on? I'm moving. I got myself an apartment. I'm so excited.
Nice.
So that's been a really big focus. And then professionally, I guess, you know, I'm writing a book on tarot and yeah, just plugging along.
Nice.
Well, thank you. And I hope everyone can join us for the Strange Realities streaming event on the 25th with Kiki.
Yep, and that's going to be at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central Time for us. And Kiki is going to be doing that. And we should say that that's available to the $10 and above Patreons on the site, our Patreon, which Sergio could tell you how to find that.
You can find that at patreon.com/Conspirinormal.
Yep. And so that's going to be February 25th. And we're really happy to have you do that, Kiki.
I'm so excited to be a part of this and to participate, and hoping I don't get sick this next October, because I would love to give in-person hugs to everybody really
Absolutely.
badly.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Speaking of Patreon, I did want to say thanks to Doug, who is one of our patrons who's been here this whole time, this epic long 400th episode. Doug, do you want to say anything? You're on mute, Doug, but thank you very much for attending. If you're still there.
I was all the way across the other side of my house.
Oh, awesome.
Wow.
I had on a mute though. That's really, yeah, no, thanks guys for, yeah, I've actually been working too, quote unquote. Well, that's why I've been hanging out for so long, but yeah, just keep up the great work, and everybody that's called, and you've been all your guests too. So I'm actually about ready to jump off, but I'm gonna hang in for a bit. All right.
Awesome. Well, we're all gonna jump off here too pretty soon. Thanks for joining us.
That's what I figured. All right. Have a good night.
You too.
Well, anybody have any final thoughts? Jennifer Campbell, I know you got to have something.
Come on, Campbell, bring it.
Gotta have something smart ass to say.
Well, not smart ass. I'm just going to say that I expect more of this quality content, and
thank you.
You guys make it easy to do laundry and not feel like I'm about to throw myself out the window. So I appreciate it.
Thank you. We appreciate you, Jennifer. Thanks for
All right,
always
now
being
hold on. Before we go, I have a question. I don't know. This might have been addressed earlier in the party. Adam, what's going on with the two coat hangers behind you?
You know,
is this some kind of occult ritual?
Coleman's like theory of the hook, you know what I'm saying? And like what was it, the dead kids hanging in the closets or whatever the hell it is. That's like what Adam's like. He was just waiting all night for you to show up to him for that coded message that you bring back to Lauren Coleman, man.
Yes, exactly. I didn't want to feel stupid and not know what it meant, you know, honestly.
Yeah. Well, it's very symbolic of duality.
Oh, yeah, you got the light and the dark hanger.
There's a light and a dark hanger. That's exactly what it is. You know, they're conjoined together. So even though they're completely and totally different opposites, duality, they still are one in a sense, you know, even though they're actually individuals.
They're like reverse mirror images too.
Yes.
And I think it's a symbolic ritual to try to get rid of some of these damn strange reality shirts that we have piled up in here.
Right.
That's what it is.
That's actually for Luke, my roommate. Luke is got his
Luke's lucrative eBay operation,
shirts and coats and stuff, and it looks extremely like I'm just like living in a flop house, but yeah.
Yeah, no, it's cool. I didn't know if it was like art or something. Now, I want to say one other thing. This is related to Conspirinormal. When I was down in I was going to say Memphis. When I was down in Nashville for the event, I met this character, Phil Buck, and he is a fucking riot. And people who you're having to work from home, or if you're home like at 11 o'clock in the morning, he does a show. What is it? Fucking coffee with breakfast with Phil? I don't remember it, even though
mornings with Phil.
Mornings. It is like my favorite. When I can get in there, which is usually like 2 or 3 times a week, it is just awesome. It is the coolest, most bizarre sort of morning show experience with. It's really awesome, dude. This is the first time I've seen you like one-on-one or in a conversation, man. And you see me in the chat, dude. I love Mornings with Phil. It's awesome. So people check it out. It's on Twitch.
I'm a huge fan of Tim. I mean, ever since I came into the Conspirinormal universe, Tim always just cracked me up. Like, I remember editing one of y'all's conferences where you had the whole panel and everybody's set up together. And Tim had the beer. And I think at one point Tim spills his beer, and I was just like, I like this Tim guy, man. He's like this is my kind of guy. And then I got to meet Tim at the Conspirinormal, the Strange Realities conference this last year, and I was just like, yeah. And I'm so glad we became friends on Facebook, because you just crack me up all the time. So
yeah, it's crazy,
it's mutual,
dude. Like,
man.
we only had like 1 or 2 conversations down in Nashville. Then I got back and I'm like, this guy's a fucking riot on here. I wish I could talk to him more. So you got to be at the next one, man, because we're gonna tear it up in Nashville.
Yeah. We'll definitely we'll be getting put into a Uber together, you know, by the rest of the crew. Like, get these guys out of here, get them back to the hotel.
There you go. Yeah,
they're not gonna make it, you know. But yeah, I do appreciate you throwing out. It's like a Twitch stream that I do every morning. And I also was hoping I could wedge my way in here, because I do a podcast. And it's only auxiliarily, is that a word? Auxiliarily? It's only peripherally related to the Conspirinormal universe. But we did have a joke, and I appreciated Stephanie's talk about the sexy time with the Sasquatches, because we've had a whole thing on our show. It's called The Suck. And we did a whole thing about which cryptid would you hook up with if you could. And, you know, there was a whole varied array of answers, from Mothman to Sasquatch to, I mean, just, you know, you could imagine all the answers people would give. But if y'all like very strange kind of twisted humor, check out The Suck wherever you get podcasts. We do it every week. So I thank you for letting me get that in there real quick.
Yeah, totally. I'll check out Phil's stuff.
Yeah,
Mothman do got the booty.
Phil is multi-talented, guys.
Yeah, for sure.
From comics to all the other characters that he does, and you probably saw some of his stuff in 2020.
Oh yeah, I was clapping the alien cheeks. Maybe they might remember that.
Cheeks, yeah. And your what was the character that is always like talking about clout?
It was I used to do Chill Neil. Was my alter ego for years, and he's actually dead now. So maybe we could do some kind of seance or something. Bring him back in the mix. He was working.
What was it, Joffrey or whatever?
I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. You're thinking of Jeffrey McCatthews. He runs an organization called Healthy Living Without Clout. So if you're trying to purify the way that you live your life and stop chasing clout, Jeffrey McCathy's can help you. And Kanye West, he might need Jeffrey right now. A lot of people could use that, I think.
Well, I will say, like I was saying to these guys, how much I respect that they do this show week in and week out. That's what kind of blew me away, because I thought you were just kind of fucking around. One day you had this morning show. You're like, I'm going to do a morning. I think I'm going to do a morning show. And I was like, this guy's crazy. So you did it. And now all of a sudden it's every day. I'm like, how does this guy even, like, that's such dedication. He's got like all the graphics and all this other stuff. I'm like, holy shit, dude, this guy's just, he just created a fucking morning show out of like thin air, and he's just doing it just to do it. And he's consistently doing it every day almost. So I'm like, holy shit, this is, so yeah, man, I'm really amazed. I'm really blown away by it. I'm enjoying watching this thing kind of like become a thing. It's really cool.
Thank you so much, Tim, man. It means a lot coming from you. I really appreciate it.
All right, excellent, folks. Thank you so much, guys, for being a part of the 400th episode. I want to thank everybody that showed up. We've still got remaining Steve Berg, Vincent Treewell, Tim Banal, and Phil, and Jennifer Campbell. So we're really looking forward to and Steven Snyder is still here.
Yeah, and, thank you very much for having me on, and for everything you guys have done for me, and it's an honor to be a part of the 400th episode.
Absolutely, man.
Thanks,
we'd
man.
love to have you as part of it. But here's to the next 100 episodes, and we will see you next week.
Everybody now.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Great work, you guys.
Congratulations, fellas.
Congrats,
Thank
guys.
you. Peace.